I fell in love with Gravity Falls when I started reacting to the show for the first time a few years ago on our group reaction channel, Sorta Stupid. And it's one of those shows that just sticks with you. I think about it constantly, and with how much we react, that really isn't always the case. Characters, the world building, and the story especially was something I never would have expected from a cartoon. After all, cartoons are for kids. Right? Now, maybe it's just me, but when I grew up, there were things that were for kids and things that were not for kids. If you still played those games, watched those shows, collected those cards, you'd be ridiculed, attacked, you name it. Hell, I got into a fight in middle school because some kid threw my strategy guide for Final Fantasy X into the trash can. That actually did happen. I felt really bad about it afterwards. So between that and other teenage distractions, I kind of just stopped watching TV as much and played video games instead. So when we started reacting to Gravity Falls due to demand on the channel, I could not believe what I was watching. Seriously, I had watched TV, of course, anime, adult cartoons like Rick and Morty, but I hadn't gone back to traditional cartoons since I was much younger. And most of the shows that I grew up watching never really had a plot to begin with, and those that did have a plot, I watched them too sporadically because of cable to keep up with it. Gravity Falls is, of course, a kid-friendly show, but it also has a riveting and engaging story with adult themes. So if you love Gravity Falls, or maybe you're trying to see if it's a show you should check out, stay tuned because we're going through the entire story of Gravity Falls right now. Let's go all the way back to the first episode of the series, Tourist Trapped.
Can't wait to explore Gravity Falls? Friday, catch a special preview of Disney Channel's brand new series, Gravity Falls.
The whirlwind adventure begins with two twins called Dipper and Mabel rolling into a place called Gravity Falls, where they're expecting a quiet summer with their grunkle Stan, one of the greatest grunkles in the history of animation. Anyways, the kids got handed minimum wage jobs in Stan's half-haunted roadside tourist trap called the Mystery Shack, which in this economy is a pretty sweet deal. Now, right off the bat, Dipper's already suspicious of the new place. He's hanging up signs for his uncle and finds a busted switchboard hidden in a hollow tree that opens a trap door. Hidden in this compartment is a handwritten journal full of warnings, illustrations of dangerous monsters, and the message, trust no one. Dipper's instincts look spot on. This town is hiding way more than wax figures and novelty mugs. Despite the journal's warnings, though, Dipper shares the journal with Mabel. After all, of course, he would trust his twin sister. And back at the shack, Mabel shows off her new boyfriend, Norman, who, well, he moves like he's duct taped together. This obviously sets off every alarm in Dipper's newly journal-filled brain. He flips through the monster entries in a panic and lands on a zombie, at which point he's fully convinced his sister is about to become a statistic. Then again, I'm not really sure the Census Bureau keeps track of how many people die by zombie attack, but what do I know? Dipper follows the two around their date, but he just can't find any evidence. Even so, he tries to convince his sister that something weird is up with this Norman guy, but she's just not having it. The two of them are in love. They're going on another date later, and there's nothing Dipper can do about it. Dipper sits alone in the living room, scrubbing through his camcorder, wishing he had evidence. Oh shit, his hand just fell off. Well, good thing Dipper got footage of that in 4K. He rushes off to find Mabel, who's already met up with Norman in the woods for their date. He says he wants to share something with her, a secret that he's been hiding. That's when he finally drops the act and reveals he's actually not a zombie at all. He's 5 gnomes in a trench coat named Jeff, Carson, Steve, Jason, and Smebulok, who I guess was born before the age of normal names. These gnomes only want one thing from Mabel, and that's her hand in marriage, and for her to become their queen. I guess women are in short supply in the gnome world. Mabel's flattered, but rejects the nice little men. Well, they aren't so nice after being turned down. Shockingly, they immediately leap and attack Mabel, ready to kidnap her. And with the mystery cart, Dipper drives straight into the forest, armed to the teeth to save his sister from becoming zombie meat. But he finds her just as she's being tied to the ground by the gnomes. Well, he was wrong about Norman. Dipper frees Mabel with a shovel, but before they can escape, the gnomes stack themselves into one giant meaty gnome. I said it wrong. meaty gnome, and started chasing after and launching themselves at the pair as they attempt to escape with the cart. To get out of the Gnomegeddon, Mabel has an idea to step up with a fake surrender. She tells Dipper to trust her and agrees to marry Jeff. And as he puckers up for that kiss, she whips out the leaf blower she used earlier for kissing practice and sets it to reverse, sucking Jeff into the leaf blower, which is definitely how leaf blowers work, and then flipping the switch to launch him back at the amalgamation of gnomes, sending them all scurrying off.
Victory!
Mabel apologizes for Dipper for not hearing out his concerns. They do the awkward sibling hug thing. After their long day, they head back into the shack, hoping that nothing else weird is awaiting them there. And no, I'm not counting Stan. Speaking of Stan, wanting to cheer them up from whatever has got them so tired out, Stan lets the twins pick anything in the gift shop on the house as keepsakes for their time. So Dipper grabs his iconic blue pine tree hat. Mabel chooses a grappling hook, clearly much better than Stan's silly doll suggestion. And by the end of the night, she's firing it around their bedroom while Dipper quietly writes down every second of their adventure in the journal, noting that after today, he knows at the very least he can trust his sister to have his back. Mabel shoots the light off with her grappling hook as they turn in for the night, and down in the gift shop, Stan turns in as well, entering a code into the vending machine and revealing a secret door that he enters into. Turns out the town isn't the only thing hiding secrets around here.
Child psychic Gideon.
Hello, America!
And he's setting his sights
I have a vision.
on Mabel. All new Gravity Falls, Friday at 9:30, 8:30 Central. Part of Night It premieres on Disney Channel.
From here, we move on to episode 4, The Hand That Rocks the Mabel, where Dipper and Mabel and Handyman Seuss are watching Tiger Fist on TV.
Tiger is a hero!
During the show's commercial break, an advertisement drops for Little Gideon's Tent of Telepathy, rival business of Stan's boasting the powers of a psychic kid. Stan immediately bans them from checking it out, stating that Gideon's been a thorn in his side, even outside of their business. That's right, Stan's mortal enemy is a child who looks like a baby cosplaying as Elvis Presley. Still, the kids are curious, so they go to check out the show in secret along with Seuss. Now, while the little guy may not look like a monster, there is something really off about this fella.
Hello, America! My name is Lil Gideon.
Everybody in the audience eats up his musical gospel-esque performance, except Dipper. As soon as they leave the tent, he clocks Gideon as a fraud and calls him an even bigger con artist than Stan, which, if you know Stan, is one hell of an insult. They then walk back to the shack and we can see Gideon peek out from behind his tent, clearly interested in something. Or maybe it's someone. The next day, Gideon drops by the shack, and when Mabel answers the door, he says he hasn't been able to get her laugh out of his head and asks if she'd like to chat more in his dressing room. Excited at the prospect of makeovers, Mabel agrees. And when she returns, she's in full sparkle mode. She tells Dipper he should have given him a chance. Stop being so allergic to fun, she says, but he's distracted by Seuss inviting him to go blow up hot dogs in the microwave. Boys, am I right? I mean, come on, who hasn't blown up a hot dog in the microwave at least once or twice? Gideon takes Mabel up to the roof of his family's factory, lays on the romance a little too thick with a concerning tyrannical line thrown in for good measure, and asks Mabel to go on a date with him. Mabel tries to mentally downgrade this into a play date or a shopping situation, but Gideon's already deep into one-sided relationship mode and swears on his lucky bolo tie that it'll only be one. Mabel reluctantly agrees, and Gideon hugs her tight, and he sniffs her hair. Yikes. The next day, Gideon shows up on horseback, dressed like a Southern colonel. He's got a reservation to an incredibly fancy restaurant with multiple forks and sparkling water, the whole 9 yards, and Mabel plans to let him down easy. But Gideon ends the night with a big, dramatic macaw-assisted ballroom invitation. Mabel, now trapped by the town's collective attention span and a flood of news coverage, agrees once again, hoping she can friendship her way out of it somehow. Meanwhile, Stan, who hated Gideon from the jump, heads to Gideon's home to put an end to this relationship. Gideon ain't dating Grunkle Stan's grandchild, niece. You know what I meant. Instead, he gets buttered up by the boy's dad into thinking this could be a business merger in disguise, smelling all the money this could make him. Stan completely flips to put his full support behind their relationship. Never mind. Marry it up, kids. After the ball ends, as they're in a romantic canoe ride, Mabel attempts once again to break things off with Gideon. But this boy is just too dense, and Mabel is too overwhelmed by all of these romantic gestures and frustrated at her inability to turn him down. Mabel locks herself in Sweater Town.
Mabel's not here. She's in Sweater Town.
Seeing how distraught she is, Dipper finally decides to end the relationship himself on her behalf. He meets Gideon at the next date location and breaks the news to him. But Gideon takes it as Dipper getting between him and the love of his life. He plays it cool, but once he's home, he throws a full-on tantrum, powered by an actual mystic gem sealed within his lucky bolo tie. When his dad walks in, Gideon goes full megalomaniac and screams that he could buy and sell him, which his dad brushes off pretty easily. Father of the year, everyone. Burning with rage, Gideon bribes local reporter Toby, determined to lure Dipper to his factory with the promise of an interview regarding the odd happenings around town. But in reality, Gideon is preparing for a not so casual telekinetic assault. While Gideon bombards Dipper with gem-fueled psychic attacks, Mabel's venting to Wendy about how bad she feels, even after having Dipper end this for her. She realizes she needs to stand up for herself and finally decides to end things her way. When she finds Gideon at the factory, he is mid-attack with her brother floating in the air with scissors at his throat. She's somehow able to ignore this and break up with Gideon as if things are totally normal. Not. There's no way the two could keep being friends when he's attacking her brother. She catches Gideon off guard by yanking his bolo tie off, tossing it to Dipper. But Mad Boy tackles him through a window before he can use it. Mabel grabs the amulet just in time, uses it to save both of them from splatting, shuts Gideon down mid-threat, and finally smashes the amulet like it's a bug. Gideon slinks off into his forest with the classic, "This isn't over." When he returns home, it's clear the business deal with Stan is off.
Try and catch me, suckers!
Once everyone is settled back at the shack, the twins exhaustedly joke about Gideon's revenge potential and laugh it off, not knowing he is literally at home crafting little wooden dolls of all three of them. He closes journal 2. Yes, that journal 2, revealing he's already holding a piece of the bigger puzzle, and he is not planning to let it go anytime soon. So like Dipper, Gideon has his own journal. I guess that explains all, the psychic stuff, huh? There's no skipping the next episode this time, so let's dive right into the inconveniencing. And it starts with Wendy, the gift shop clerk, taking Dipper and Mabel up to the roof where she hangs out sometimes. The three have fun throwing rocks, and Dipper can't help but be charmed by Wendy's fun personality. The two build a rapport with Dipper, promising not to tell Stan about her leaving work early to hang with her friends. Mabel can tell her brother is completely in love with Wendy, but he's still barely clinging on to the threads of denial. Yeah, that doesn't last too long. Poor kid stays up at night thinking about her. The next day, while doing a little impromptu dancing during slow work hours, Mabel and Wendy insist that Dipper joins them. He insists he doesn't dance, but Mabel's got a cute little picture to prove what Dipper is desperate to avoid. Back when his parents made him do the Lammy dance. I am so sorry, buddy. Luckily, Wendy's shift ends before she gets a chance to see that photo. And when she leaves to meet her friends, Dipper is desperate to join in and lies about being 13. It's a little fib, but it opens the door to a super big problem. Wendy invites Dipper and Mabel to hang out with her and her older teen friends, who includes a grumpy emo jerk named Robbie, who sucks. He introduces himself as the guy who spray painted the water tower. Dipper calls it a big muffin, though it was meant to be an explosion. He's not the best artist. And seeing the muffin-y resemblance, Robbie's friends tease him a bit. So yeah, Dipper gets on his shit list pretty much immediately. Suddenly, they're crammed in the back of a beat-up minivan, bouncing toward an abandoned convenience store that's supposedly haunted. Did somebody get Scooby-Doo? From here, we're gonna find out just how haunted. Don't worry, it's called the Dusk to Dawn, and it's long closed after a couple mysteriously died inside. It's obviously not haunted. Naturally, everyone's excited except for Dipper, who's visibly nervous. He tries to shove those feelings down for the sake of looking cool and, impressing the teenagers. He manages to sneak into the store through the vents and unlocks the building for everyone else. Once again, showing up Robbie. Robbie might kill this kid. The group all explore the store and get the lights on, ready to have fun time with all the leftover merchandise. And that's when Mabel finds a bag of outlawed Smile Dip, which is basically just shrooms for kids. She devours it like a rabid chipmunk, starts tripping straight away. She starts hallucinating rainbows, Smile Dip mascots, and whatever this is. All the while, Wendy compliments Dipper on how much fun everyone's having and how glad she is that he joined them. Wendy's buddies are out of ice for shoving into Thompson's pants, so Dipper quickly runs to go get more. He opens the freezer, sees a floating brain with eyeballs staring back at him. Guys, I think maybe all those haunted rumors might be true. Dipper stumbles back, screaming understandably, but when he opens the freezer again, the brain is just gone. So the teens tease him a bit for freaking out, but to prove he's not scared little baby, he lies down in the tape outlining leftover from when those two people died here, which is kind of crazy. Like, goddamn, Dipper. I didn't know you had balls like that. Bad idea though, man. Ghosts start picking the teens off one by one, trapping one in the TV, another in Dance Dance Revolution. Hell, one of them gets put in a cereal box cover. Dipper tries to hold it together, looks for answers within the journal, but ghostly static fills the air and his sister rises into the air, blank eyes and possessed. The remaining group tries to beg their way out of the situation, but the ghost is not having it, launching merchandise everywhere throughout the store. After running and hiding with Wendy, Dipper looks at what happened when each friend was taken and figures the ghosts are not hunting them for no reason. They're hunting teens specifically, and the lie he told about their age just might be able to get them out of this mess. He runs up to the ghosts and admits that he's 12. He's just a kid. The moment he says this, the curse snaps. The spirits of Ma and Pa Duskerton fade into view. Holding on to Mabel by her hair, they explain the truth, that they always hated teenagers for being loud and disrespectful, so they were banned from their store. And in retaliation, the teens would play hateful hip-hop music outside their store, which ultimately caused them to have a heart attack and die just right there behind the register, which is kind of insane. And to pass on for good, they need one last thing: a dance. I know it sounds silly, but if it was me, I'm totally making myself look stupid to get the ghosts out of my hair than to potentially die. So Dipper's gotta agree. He swallows every scrap of pride he has left and launches into the full lammy dance. It's kind of adorable. It's also funny because I feel like he could have done any other dance and they probably would have been okay with it, but he did the embarrassing one. Character growth. The ghosts love his lamb shtick and fade away into the afterlife, leaving Dipper as victorious against their terror. But now Wendy knows he's a kid, and she saw that dance. Wendy's about to tell the hilarious truth of what Dipper did, but she quickly realizes that this is something Dipper would rather have hidden. Instead, she spins a tale of epic heroism, where he beats the ghosts up. Dipper's grateful, and Wendy zips her lips, throws away the key, the sign of mutual trust between them, just like earlier. Mabel, meanwhile, is crashing big time after her sugar high. Been there. And I think this episode does a great job of showing character dynamics. Dipper starts stepping up as a hero. We see that Wendy starts taking a shine to him, even if it's not the way he wants her to. And we get a good feel for how dangerous this summer is gonna be for the kids. So with that in mind, let's move on to the next episode, Irrational Treasure.
Ah, no. It happens once a year.
Pioneer Day!
And it all new Gravity Falls.
Yeah!
Next Friday, starting at 8/7 Central on Disney Channel Summer.
And in Irrational Treasure, it is Gravity Falls Pioneer Day, a quaint town celebration of ye old times, which Stan absolutely despises. But it's impossible to escape.
Not today! Not today!
Unlike their grumpy Grunkle Stan, Mabel is absolutely enchanted by the celebration. On the ceremonial stage, Pacifica Northwest takes the microphone to, well, brag about her great-great-grandfather, Nathaniel Northwest, the founder of Gravity Falls.
Oh, brother, this guy stinks!
She invites someone in the crowd to approach and introduce themselves, and of course, Mabel is the one to step up, only for Pacifica to publicly shame her for being too silly to take the part. We all hate you, Pacifica. Mabel feels humiliated because she felt proud of her silly identity. She removes off her big earrings, ditches her puppy basketball sweater, and forces herself into a stiff, serious persona. And if being goofy means being treated like an insect, then she won't be goofy anymore. Dipper sees Mabel's confidence collapse and remembers a detail from the journal that suggests Nathaniel Northwest may not have been the real founder at all. Inside the journal is a strange map marked with a triangle. Triangle. Proving that the town's founder is a fraud could expose Pacifica and get Mabel feeling like herself again. So Dipper decides to pursue this detail until he learns the truth about the town's origins. Thinking investigating might make her more serious, Mabel gladly joins her brother, and the two head off, unaware that Sheriff Blubbs and Deputy Durland are secretly tailing them. At the library, Dipper learns that the triangle is the alchemist's symbol for flame, so he believes the map must be burned to reveal its message. But before he can, Mabel folds it into a tri-corner hat instead, immediately admonishing herself for being so silly. But wait, she folded it into a map! Good thing Dipper didn't burn it. That would have not gone well. The map leads them to the History Museum, where they spend some time staring at triangle, which is boring. Mabel looks at it hanging upside down, discovers an illustration of an angel pointing, which leads them to the cemetery. Dang, girl, you're on a roll. If that wasn't enough, Mabel pretends that pointing angel statue is picking her nose, bending its finger and opening a hidden underground passage. The twins descend into a trap-filled tunnel, narrowly avoiding pressure plates and darts, and eventually uncover a secret government vault filled with old artifacts and classified documents. And among those classified documents and old artifacts, among the absurd files, is the truth about the real founder of Gravity Falls, Quentin Tremblay III. Before they can react, Blubbs and Durland storm in and confess they were assigned to keep this information locked down. They play an old film of a government official revealing Tremblay's true identity as the 8th president of the United States.
I think this whole administration has completely lost their mind!
He was known for being the silliest president of all time. After winning his race in a literal landslide, the man waged war on pancakes. I don't like that, man. Appointed babies to the Supreme Court, probably better than the ones we have now, and issued the depancitation. I screwed it up again. Apparently, I don't know how to say this word, so we're just gonna move on. The Depancipation Proclamation. There we go. Nailed it. I'm so smart. That's right, guys. No more pants. After being kicked from office, he escaped to the yet-to-be-named Gravity Falls, becoming its official founder. The U.S. government erased Tremblay's existence, replacing him with a new president and providing Gravity Falls with a new founder, a local nobody, Nathaniel Northwest. The whereabouts of Tremblay's body were unknown until the twins found the secret passage. Now, you see, Tremblay preserved himself inside a block of peanut brittle, believing it would keep him alive for future generations. His candy-coated body has been hidden beneath the town ever since. I guess you could say he's a bit of a nutter. I don't leave. The officers locked Dipper, Mabel, and the frozen former president into a shipping crate and placed them on a train to Washington, treating the truth as a national secret. And if only they hadn't followed the twins using candy wrappers that Mabel had thrown away as they investigated, Mabel, overwhelmed and blaming herself, takes a bite of the peanut brittle casing and accidentally frees Tremblay, who emerges alive and fully functional, thanks to preservatives and patience, I guess. Tremblay thanks Mabel for following his silly clues that serious authorities hadn't been able to crack in 100 years. He helps the twins escape the crate in typical silly fashion and confronts Blubb and Durland on top of the moving train. However, Tremblay never officially resigned as president. He still technically holds authority. He orders the stunned officers to stand down and take a vacation, which of course they immediately accept, abandoning the mission. Tremblay thanks the twins again by making Mabel an honorary congresswoman and giving Dipper the president's key. Having uncovered such a big mystery, Mabel embraces her silliness again with pride, no longer needing validation from Pacifica, who doesn't believe Mabel about her discovery. I mean, let's be real, it's kind of crazy, but Mabel doesn't need Pacifica to believe her. She believes in herself. Dipper, he does not share that same restraint and chases after Pacifica's car, revealing through the window that Nathaniel Northwest was a fraud, thus leaving Pacifica distraught. And with the president's key, the twins freestand from the stocks where he has spent the day being pelted with tomatoes for being a Grinch over Pioneer Day. I don't really blame you, Grunkle Stan. I really don't. From here, the family head homes together. Mabel is returned fully to herself, thankfully, and Dipper walks away satisfied with justice served. Beneath all the chaos, the message lands clearly. Being yourself, even when that self is strange, is what actually saves the day. Or something like that anyways. The fun doesn't stop there, and I think it's only fair we talk about something that Stan does like. Money. Stan throws together a cheap carnival every year for easy cash. Pretty solid idea in my opinion. The Mystery Shack gang helps set up the fair, but someone is lurking in the shadows, someone with a camouflage suit. Maybe the title, The Time Traveler's Pig, may give us an idea of what's to come. Hard to pay mind to that though, because the fair starts out with a bang! Dipper sees it as his chance to finally hang out with Wendy, maybe even ask her out. That is, if Robbie doesn't get in the way of them having a good time. Mabel, meanwhile, spots a game that promises a pig as the prize. She guesses the weight perfectly, and I mean, he was literally called 15 Poundy and instantly falls in love with the tiny pink pig she names Waddles. While Mabel is bonding with her new porky pal, Dipper's that's not the right word. Dipper's mood nosedives when he throws a ball at the milk bottle booth and the ball ricochets, accidentally smacking Wendy in the eye. He apologizes, runs to get ice, but after he runs into the mysterious man from earlier, the ice spills and he's delayed from her rescue. Because of this, Robbie rushes in to help her, icing her eye with a snow cone and asking Wendy officially to go out with it, leaving Dipper crushed. Man, we've all been there, dude. Okay, not technically there, and yeah, okay, I've never hit anyone in the eye with a ball personally, but you know what I'm saying. Dipper watches the two go into the tunnel of love and corn dogs, spending the rest of the night regretting his life choices. He's convinced that everything went wrong because of that one throw. And while moping, he notices Blendin Blandin, the strange man who ruined his chances with Wendy. Dipper confronts him angrily, blaming everything on him. Feeling cornered, Blendin reveals that he's a time traveler cleaning up Anomaly, though he's struggling to find any. Seeing his opportunity to fix things, Dipper insists that Blendin let him use his time machine, which also looks a whole lot like a tape measure. Blendin refuses, so Dipper suggests he take a load off by enjoying the fair. I mean, the poor guy's tired. So he goes to ride a barrel ride, which necessitates that he take off his belt. Bingo. Dipper nabs the tape measure time machine, activates the device, and the twins begin looping through the same 6 hours of the fair again and again and again. Each attempt ends the same way, almost like a canon event. No matter what Dipper changes, Wendy always gets hurt in increasingly convoluted ways, and Robbie always steps in. Eventually, Dipper creates a perfect, mathematically sound and elaborate plan that finally works, redirecting the ball through a ridiculous chain of events that knocks over the bottles without hitting Wendy. All he needs is Mabel's help. In the end, Dipper wins the prize Wendy wanted, which shuts down Robbie's attempt to ask her out, and they ride the tunnel of love together. Dipper finally gets his perfect timeline. Unfortunately, in this new version of events, Mabel is distracted helping Dipper, and Pacifica actually is the one to win Waddles instead. When Mabel sees her rival walking the pig through the fair, she breaks down and demands they go back in time to fix it. And then let's go back and remember, this is only one episode after everything with Pacifica. You gotta understand where Mabel's coming from here. So with Mabel demanding to go back in time, Dipper refuses, not wanting to give up the only opportunity for success with Wendy. Their argument bursts into a struggle for the time device, sending them tumbling uncontrollably through time. They jump through pioneer times, dinosaur eras, distant futures ruled by the time baby, don't ask, and fragments of their own past, leaving behind loose objects that explain earlier continuity oddities within the series. They even tumble back to a pre-Mystery Shack cabin in the woods with what looks like a younger Stan poking his head out after hearing the commotion before heading back inside. They crash back into the fair, and Mabel again begs Dipper to undo the timeline to prove she'll move on from the pig. Dipper jumps forward days, weeks, and even a month, only to find Mabel still devastated without Waddle, knocking her head against a totem pole repeatedly. Seeing how badly he has broken his sister's heart, Dipper finally accepts the truth and rewinds time one last time. He lets the original failure happen again. Wendy gets hurt, Robbie steps in, and Mabel wins Waddles as fate originally intended. I don't know about you guys, but if I was Dipper, that pig would have been on the menu the next day. You gotta remember, Dipper's 12. This is a girl he has a crush on, and Waddles, as much as I love Waddles, is bacon. I'm just saying. But then again, it's probably a good thing I don't have a time control device. I would just waste time doing stuff like rewinding time so my alarm clock is at 7:56 instead of 8 o'clock. Kind of like a more powerful snooze button, you know what I mean? I don't know about you guys, but with the introduction of time travel into the show, I think things are beginning to really heat up. But that might just be because there's a brutal heat wave hitting Gravity Falls in the episode The Deep End. It's so hot that animals are catching fire and the Mystery Shack is starting to melt. Like actually melt. I didn't know this was Arizona signs. The town's only escape is the public pool, reopening for the seasons, and the Pines family rushes there for a relief. As soon as they arrive, Mabel spots a mysterious boy in the water who never leaves the deep end. He has perfect hair, speaks with a soft accent, and she is instantly locked in. She charges across the concrete to meet him, tripping over everything in her path. And at the same time, Wendy hits Stan from atop the lifeguard chair, grabbing Dipper's attention. In order to spend more time with her, he panics and signs up to work as her assistant. He manages to get hired by the unhinged pool manager, Mr. Poolcheck, who treats the pool like a high-security prison. I mean, apparently he lost his hand in a pool filter, so, you know, if he actually cares about the well-being of the kids and the community, I guess I kind of understand where he's coming from. We're back at the pool. Mabel approaches the mysterious boy from beneath the water and introduces herself. Uber flirtation, as always. But the boy seems charmed. She tries to ask him out, but he dramatically interrupts her, saying he has a terrible secret and sadly swims away. Meanwhile, Stan gets into a fight with little Gideon over the best pool chair and ends up locked in pool jail while Gideon enjoys watching him stew. And that conflict runs quietly in the background while Dipper and Mabel have their respective pool adventures. Dipper tries to have fun rule breaking with Wendy while dodging the burning gaze of Mr. Poolcheck, while Mabel tries to learn what exactly the mystery boy's deal is. She brings him food to bribe the secret out of him, which obviously works. You ever hear that the key to a man's heart is through his stomach? Rock solid proof right there. The boy admits his truth. He's not human. He's a merman who was captured in a fishing net, shipped inland by accident, and trapped far from the ocean. The pool and the nearby lake are the only places he can survive. And to his shock, Mabel's not scared or bothered by this in the slightest. She's actually thrilled, and she finally learns his name, Mermando. Later that night, after sneaking to the pool to talk with him more, Mabel sees how sad Mermando is away from home and becomes determined to help her new crush escape back to where he belongs. The next morning, Mr. Poolcheck threatens Dipper over broken equipment. If any more supplies are broken, he'll be fired! He stays at the pool overnight to keep guard, only to find his grunkle Stan breaking in to claim a chair before Gideon. Stan makes a break for it, distracting him from seeing Mabel also break in and steal a water cooler to get Mermando out there in the commotion. Dipper returns and catches his sister as she's about to leave. She knows her brother and easily distracts him by shouting, "Hey, look, Wendy's in a bikini," and then riding off. Dipper frustratedly grabs the pool mobile and gives chase, eventually knocking the cooler with a water balloon and causing it to drain of water. They reach the lake where Dipper finally stops her and demands the cooler back. Mabel opens it to reveal Mermando struggling to breathe without water. There's no time to argue. Mabel orders Dipper to give him reverse mouth to mouth. Not wanting a man to die in front of him, Dipper grabs a bottle of water and drinks it, spitting it back into Mermando's mouth. And yeah, this is kind of disgusting, but I mean, it works. They roll Mermando into the lake, giving him a loudspeaker so he can call to his family while giving their farewells. Mermando gives Mabel her first kiss, leaving her floating with joy while Dipper pretends the whole thing never happened. The next day, Dipper's fired for the missing equipment, but Wendy also gets fired too for separate reasons. They leave the pool together on good terms, and nearby Stan finally gets his chair back, only to discover Gideon painted it with glue, trapping him in place once again. As the heat wave fades, Mabel begins receiving messages from Mermando by bottle. Dipper quietly resets himself after another emotional swing, and Gravity Falls moves on as if none of it was strange at all. We're gunning towards the end of that first series now, but before we get there, we've got a two-part bonanza to cover. So let's head into the first part, Dreamscapers.
Friday, July 12th.
You'll never see the mystery shack again!
Good luck, bucko.
But this time, Gideon gets inside Grunkle Stan's head.
It worked!
And only Mabel and Dipper can stop him.
Oh, yeah?
Take a trip to the most mysterious, creepiest,
Hey, Mr. Tummy.
strangest Gravity Falls yet.
Arm thrown.
The episode kicks off with a storm rolling over Gravity Falls, and the gang are keeping nice and dry inside the Mystery Shack. Stan calls the kids down to the living room to watch and laugh at the new commercial from Lil Gideon.
Opening soon at this location. Should we be worried about that?
Stan laughs it off and says Gideon can't touch the shack unless he gets the deed, which is locked in Stan's safe. And the moments the words leave his mouth, Gideon crashes into the office to crack the safe. Not very stealthily, by the way, if you ask me. He's like me playing stealth video games. Stan chases him back outside with a broom like an unwanted rodent. Gideon threatens that once he steals the deed, it'll all be over. But Stan ignores him and slams the door in his face. Now, standing in the rain outside, he overhears Stan brag that the only place the safe code exists is inside his head. That's when Gideon realizes he's got to get into the mind of Stan, which might sound hard, but not when there's a certain three-sided demon willing to help. That night, while the family watches a movie which is not Dream Boy High, much to Mabel's disappointment, Seuss pops in to say there's a bat in the kitchen. Stan sends Dipper to go take care of it, unfairly leaving the hard work to him over his sister, which is constant with his grunkle, shocking. Stan glares at the kid until he finally gives in and goes to take care of the bat, which doesn't sound like a great time. And while Seuss treats Dipper's battle scars, Dipper wonders why Stan singles him out so much. He feels as though Stan flat out hates him sometime. Right on cue, Dipper is called to take care of a clogged sink, even further building Dipper's bitterness. At the same time, Gideon sneaks out to the woods with Journal 2's pages turned to creature 326 and performs a strange ritual. Mabel and Seuss are messing around outside and overhear Gideon speaking his Latin spell, and they watch as a triangle-shaped demon appears in a flash of light, floating, laughing, bending reality just by talking. This is Bill Cipher, the isosceles of insanity. We've had little nods to Bill appearing throughout the series, triangles in the windows and all that jazz. But anyways, Gideon strikes a deal with him to enter Stan's mind and steal the safe code in exchange for a vague favor later. Intrigued and clearly a bit familiar with Stan, Bill agrees, having witnessed the whole deal. Mabel and Seuss rush to tell Dipper, who's sweeping the living room at Stan's demand once again. God damn. Like, dude, I understand you gotta help around the house. Stan is working this kid like crazy, especially today. Holy crap. Bad timing, Grunkle Stan. When Seuss mentions a triangle guy, it sounds familiar to Dipper, and he immediately turns to Journal 3 for answers. He finds a page that says, "Beware Bill, the most powerful and dangerous creature I've ever encountered." And in red ink is a warning: do not summon at all costs. The three watch as a triangular shadow sinks down behind Stan and his eyes open in a flash of blue flame. Dipper's frustrated that after all the poor treatment he's endured, he now still has to risk his life in order to save Stan. But even still, they're family. So the kids perform a mind projection spell and launch themselves straight into Stan's head to take care of Bill before he can retrieve the code to the safe. The three of them appear inside an eerie black and white floating dream version of the Mystery Shack. Bill appears right away, blasts a hole straight through Dipper for fun, conveniently explains how the mindscape works, and flexes his abilities there by pulling Mabel's favorite Dream Boys from her favorite movie, Dream Boy High. Finally, he blasts away into Stan's memory shack to find the code. The kids race after him through a labyrinth of hallways lined with glowing memory doors, seeing pieces of Stan's past, jail time, sales pitches, clumsy attempts at love. But Dipper pauses at a door called Dipper Memories. There he overhears Stan calling him a weak, embarrassing loser, and that Stan just wants to get rid of him. And obviously hurt, Dipper sulks away with his worst fear realized. Meanwhile, Mabel and Seuss continue looking for the safe behind a series of doors hiding both secrets and embarrassing moments. Mabel puts her brain to work and says to find the safe, they should think like Stan. Seuss laughs and mentions how Stan hides his arrest warrants under the rug in the gift shop. And wait, that's it. They find a secret door under a rug in one of the hallways and lift it to uncover what they've been looking for: Stan putting his deed into the safe. Mabel prepares to destroy the door, but Seuss stops her, saying that he can take care of it. He lifts up the door with his psychic ability. And wait, since when can he do that? That's right. Seuss has actually been off looking through other doors while Bill has been masquerading as the lovable handyman. Bill morphs back into his true form, cackling and emphasizing just how dumb and gullible the kids are. Mabel is ready to run after Bill to save Stan's safe code, but Dipper finally returns from his trip down memory lane. He isn't jumping at the prospect of saving his grunkle after what he heard, and I can't really blame him. He puts his foot down and says this time he isn't going to go out of his way for Stan's sake. Mabel and Seuss are disappointed in his choice, and they move on to save Stan without him. The two catch up to Bill just as he's about to give Gideon the code, and Mabel fires her Nyarf gun and sends it flying into the memory of the bottomless pit, and Bill snaps. The deal is broken, and now he's ready to destroy Mabel and Seuss. He launches a giant stone statue of Stan's head up into the cosmos and summons their worst fears. We return to Dipper, who's still brooding in the halls of Dipper Memories. By accident, he reopens the same door of Stan calling him a loser, but this time, something's different. Dipper keeps the door open long enough to let Stan finish what he was saying. His grunkle continues on that all those nasty things he said, those are things people used to say about him. He used to be a massive wimp, and that's why his dad signed him up for boxing lessons. Those lessons were tough, but they toughened the guy up. Stan explains that he's only so tough on Dipper because he sees himself in the boy and he wants him to be strong enough to handle whatever the future holds for him. And at the end of the day, Stan is proud of his nephew for coming so far. Dipper stumbles into the memory and Stan fixes up the hole in his chest, revealing to Dipper that in the mindscape, anyone can do anything. Now aware of the truth, Dipper goes after Mabel and Seuss to help in their fight to defeat Bill. And that's when Dipper flies in and blasts a hole in Bill's chest using Mindscape ability. He passes along to Mabel and Seuss that they can do anything here, and these abilities give them a way to fight back with kitten rocket fists and question mark beam. And all together, the three imagine a way out of Stan's mind and try to kick Bill out. But in the fit of rage, he puts a stop to it all, transporting them to a white manscape. Manscaped. He compliments their abilities and decides to let them live on the off chance that they're useful to him later. But as he leaves, he warns of a day of darkness when everything will change. Finally, the kids snap awake on the shack floor as Stan stirs from his nap, unaware of what just happened. They celebrate their success until Gideon blows a hole in the wall, revealing that he's used dynamite to blow open the safe and steal the deed. With this, he now fully owns the mystery shack, and the Pines watch as his father knocks down the sign with a wrecking ball. The shack is gone. Now quick, let's head over to that next part. I'll leave you on a cliffhanger. It's finale time, baby. In Gideon Rises, we pick up right where we left off. Gideon has taken the mystery shack, bulldozed it, and left the former residents out on the streets. The Pines family are left to sleep at Seuss's grandma's house, and on the news, Gideon invites everyone to a big event on the site of the former shack. At the start of the Mystery Shack's grand closing event, people attend wearing little Gideon face pins and cheering like he's some hero. They just can't resist his little charm.
Hello, Gravity Falls!
The family sneaks into Gideon's event while he's on stage and watches Gideon shows off plans for Gideon Land, a theme park with his face plastered on every attraction, because that's what everybody wants, right? And to make this even worse, he shows off Waddles dressed as a mini him as the park mascot. That's a bridge too far, man. Stan storms off the stage and calls Gideon a thief, but Gideon waves the deed in the air, claiming it's the real contract that Stan agreed to. Sheriff Blubbs believes it without a second thought. Again, I'm shocked, and Gideon has them thrown out. Stan tries to give him what for, but is interrupted by the microphone, causing feedback in his hearing aid. Wendy shows up just as frustrated, since without this job, she'll be forced to work at her cousin's logging camp upstate. And Dipper insists that she has to stay, but she quickly chased off by Robbie, who won't stop annoying her after they broke up. Back at Seuss's place, Stan secretly calls the twins' parents and lies that they're staying in a nice hotel with plenty to eat, but he's quickly realizing that he can't take care of them for much longer in these circumstances. Meanwhile, Gideon explains to his father exactly why taking over the shack was so important. He explains that his journal, the second, was written by a brilliant and unknown man who discovered powerful secrets that could lead to ruin if they fell into the wrong hands. He hid his journal so no one could have access to these secrets, but it seems like his efforts were in vain. Gideon found the second journal, and clues within hint that the other journal he needs may be buried on the property of the shack. He's ready to begin his search. Stan approaches the kids to tell them that he'll have to send them home. He has no home, he has no job, so their bus, it leaves tomorrow. Dipper digs his heels in though, saying he can't give up, but Stan cannot be convinced. Fine, if Stan won't fix this, the twins will have to. They still have Journal 3, and Mabel still has her grappling hook. They cannot be stopped. While stalking out the old shack site, Dipper flips through the pages of his journal to find something that can help them. Mabel stops him on a weird-looking page full of symbols and notes and asks what it is. Dipper replies that he thinks it's the blueprints to some sort of super weapon, but Mabel immediately loses interest and moves on, saying what they really need is an army. And that's when they both look at one another and realize their answer lies with the Gnomes, who have power in numbers. With the promise of a new white-haired queen, the Gnomes agreed to help the twins. With the construction of Gideon Land underway, the army ambushes Gideon with their pointy hats and their teeth. However, Gideon answers with a special whistle that's like torture to the Gnomes' ears, directing them to turn on the kids. So now, wrestling with the Gnomes, Dipper's journal tumbles out of his vest, revealing itself to Gideon. He snatches up the book and laughs at Dipper, saying he's nothing without the journal. He blows the whistle a final time, and the Gnomes carry the two away into the woods. Completely discouraged, Dipper resigns himself to the fact that they can't win, not without the journal. Gideon, confident in his victory, takes a good look at Journal 3. He has no idea there were 3 of them. You'd think he'd be happy to know this, but no. He needs all 3 journals to unlock whatever secret power lies inside. He figures that Dipper must also have the first journal and decides he will not allow the siblings to leave town. He asks McGucket if his giant metal statue is ready, just to reveal that it isn't just a statue, it is a giant Gideon-looking mech. Piloting the giant robot, he prepares to find Dipper at any cost. And at the same time, Stan is lamenting at how Gideon is always one step ahead of him. He stares down at the accursed button with Gideon's face, and ow, he gets interference in his hearing aid again. Suddenly, Stan lights up. He knows Gideon's weakness, but of course, can't tell us just yet. The twins end up on a bus out of town, heads low, until Gideon shows up in his Gideon bot, chasing the bus with thundering steps. The twins call out to the bus driver to warn him, and Zeus? He had to take the bus driver position to make more money. Awesome! He puts the bus into high gear, drives it up the mountain, almost driving it off a cliff, but stopping there just in time before everybody plummets to their death. Unfortunately, stopping leaves them vulnerable to Gideon and his massive mech. The robot tears the roof off the bus looking for the twins, but the two have already booked it across the train tracks that bridge the 2 cliffs. Gideon jumps down and lands on the tracks. He demands Journal 1, but Dipper has no idea what he's talking about. Gideon grabs both of them in the robot's fist, but tosses Dipper aside to take Mabel as his queen, though Gideon's words saying he's nothing echoes in his head. Dipper hardens himself and jumps straight off the cliff and onto the robot. He crashes into the cockpit and tackles Gideon. The two duke it out, and in the struggle, he manages to grab one of the robot's own arms and punches Gideon with it, slamming the fist into the robot's face until the whole thing tips backward off the bridge. The two begin to plummet to the ground, but Mabel fires her grappling hook at the rail and Dipper grabs onto her. They slowly descend to safety after Gideon's robot explodes in a mass of flames and debris. The police and the rest of the town gather at the crash site as Gideon crawls from the wreck, playing the victim and pointing at the kids, saying they tried to kill him. And for a moment, people seem to believe him. But then Stan arrives and holds up a handful of Gideon pins. He shows them that each pin has a tiny little camera inside, and revealing a room in the wrecked robot covered in monitors for each individual pin. The crowd obviously turns on Gideon at once. He tries to keep up his nice act, but it's no use. Sheriff Blub finally arrests him and throws him into the back of the police cruiser. And with the distraction of the rest, Stan quietly picks up Journal 2 from the ground and pockets it. Later, after settling back into their shack, Dipper and Mabel tell Stan about the journals, the monsters, and the weird. But Stan laughs it off, saying he finally knows where Dipper gets all his stories from. He grabs the journal under the guise of using it for an exhibit idea and leaves the twins in their room, ignoring Dipper's protest. But Mabel insists that Dipper doesn't need the journal. He held his own perfectly fine without it. He thanks Mabel, but he'd still like the journal back. And late that night, when everyone is fast asleep, Stan goes back into the secret vending machine room in the gift shop. We follow him down into a secret bunker under the shack, and there he places Journal 2 and Journal 3 beside Journal 1, which he has had the whole time. He opens all 3 together to complete the blueprints that Dipper showed Mabel earlier and activates a huge machine. Pulls a lever, and the room crackles with light as the machine roars to life. Stan stares into the glow and quietly says,
"Here we go."
And just like that, the mystery of Gravity Falls jumps to a whole new level. And I cannot believe that's how they ended season 1. And I cannot believe that I am getting chills just reading this, just like I did when I watched it the first time. Oh my God, I got the goosebumps all over, man. But don't worry, we've got a whole other season to go over, and we'll cover that next time. See ya. Nah, I'm just joking. Of course, we're going to get right into it now with the premiere of episode of season 2, Scarioki.
There's something huge going on right under our noses, and it's time we get to the bottom of it.
The new season of Gravity Falls.
There's a monster in here!
Premieres next Monday night at 9 on Disney XD.
The first episode of season 2 starts right where we left off in season 1, with Stan activating the mysterious machine hidden underneath the shack. With all 3 journals at the control station and a framed photo of Dipper and Mabel propped up above, he's feeling more confident than ever that his plan, whatever it is certain to work. Unfortunately, upon pulling the max power lever, a massive amount of energy is unleashed and picked up at a government facility. An agent claims they haven't been readings like this in 30 years. And they hone in on the location of origin, Gravity Falls. But who cares about all that intrigue and plot? We have a grand reopening to celebrate. After the finale, Stan is ready to get back to business. He announces a party to be held later that evening to celebrate the shack's return. and Mabel excitedly throws in her main event, a karaoke performance by her, Dipper, and Stan as a family band she calls
Love Patrol Alpha!
Well, I don't
I
know
would
about
never
that.
agree to that ever.
Inside, Dipper asks Stan for his journal back. Stan casually pulls it out from underneath some shelving and claims it was so boring he couldn't even finish it. Did finish, was copying the entire journal with his copy machine, but Dipper doesn't need to know about that. Later, when both twins are in their room, Dipper tells Mabel that almost losing the journal made him truly realize just how far he is from discovering the mysteries of Gravity Falls. Why did Gideon want the journal so bad? Who wrote it? Where are all the other journals? What did Bill mean when he said everything was going to change? Dipper's ready to commit to uncovering the biggest mysteries that are yet to be solved, and he feels that he's just one puzzle piece away from figuring it all out. Lucky for him, his biggest opportunity yet comes knocking at the shack's door. Unlucky for Stan, the knocks are coming from two very serious looking US government agents. He shoos his customers out of the gift shop, which is how you know he's serious, and he answers the door with his salesman voice at the ready. The men introduce themselves as Agent Powers and Agent Trigger. They've come to investigate mysterious activity around the town. Hearing this, Dipper enthusiastically explains to Powers that he's also been investigating the town and that he has a journal that details a lot of it. And interested, Powers gives Dipper his card so that he can call when he can show evidence. Stan nervously butts in, waving away Dipper's claim as a kid having an overactive imagination. Seemingly buying this, the agents leave to investigate elsewhere. Dipper's upset, but Stan just brushes him off and takes the business card to put in his box of confiscated items. Can't really blame him. Letting a 12-year-old have a government contact probably isn't the best decision. Later, Dipper and Wendy are helping set up black lights for the party. Dipper complains about Stan's interference with the agents. Wendy encourages him just to take the card back from Stan's room. Come on, dude. Just steal. Who cares? He gave it to you. It's technically yours, right? Dipper, however, is afraid of getting into trouble, but he goes ahead with the plan anyways. After all, Stan is distracted with the party, and Wendy is going to be the lookout. So obviously he won't get caught, right? He eventually finds the card, calls the agent to meet, and gets caught. Shit. Thanks, Wendy. Angry and disappointed, Stan tells Dipper to go enjoy the party because after tonight, he'll be grounded. None of this deters Dipper. He goes out into the woods to meet with the agents and show them his journal. They're predictably skeptical to the contents. After all, the stomach-faced duck, leprechaun. It sounds ridiculous. They start to walk away, but Dipper refuses to be dismissed. He rapidly flips to a page and recites a spell to the heaven. The wind begins to blow, and a fissure slowly opens underneath him, emanating a green glow. And suddenly, a skeletal hand shoots up, and a zombie pulls itself out from within the earth. Dipper turns to the agent, excited at his new proof, but the two men are horrified because they know it. Dozens of zombies begin emerging from the ground, grabbing the agents and pulling them away into the woods. Dipper sprints back to the shack for help with the zombies following close behind, completely disrupting the party as everyone begins to run for their lives. The zombies corner Dipper and Mabel within the shack, but just when it looks like Dipper's done for, Stan arrives with brass knuckles and a bat, just straight punching the zombies that had grabbed Dipper and yelling to the kids to head to the attic. He single-handedly holds off the zombies while the twins run, and eventually Stan too makes his way upstairs, closing the door to keep the zombies out. And in their brief moment of reprieve, Dipper says Stan can't deny that the paranormal exists anymore. But Stan replies that he's always known. I mean, of course he's always known, but he feels that the weirdness of the town is dangerous and has only ever wanted to protect the kids from harm. Dipper shifts his focus back to the zombies and worriedly explains that the journal contains no information on defeating them. While pacing, he happens to hold up a page to the blacklight, and they discover that there is additional information written in invisible ink. With this method, they learn that the zombie skulls can be shattered by a perfect 3-part harmony. Resolved to make it through the night alive, Dipper, Mabel, and Stan make their way up to the roof with Mabel's karaoke machine in tow and sing Taking Over Midnight as the family trio Love Patrol Alpha, just like Mabel wanted. As the boys see that their song is working, the heads start to explode left and right. They begin to sing with more gusto. The next thing we know, the whole family is having a blast together while taking down the dead. Dipper apologizes for the mess he made, but Mabel is more than happy with the performance they just put on, and Stan is just glad they're all alive. He says he'll let Dipper keep the journal, but that the kids have to stay out of trouble and only use it for self-defense. Dipper agrees on the condition that Stan isn't keeping any more secrets about the town. The two shake on it with crossed fingers behind their backs. After all, We have a whole second season to get through, man. And as if everyone didn't get enough horror last episode, Into the Bunker starts out with Dipper and Wendy watching a cheesy horror movie in Wendy's room. They joke about the silly tropes together, and with the light mood, Dipper wants to take the opportunity, finally ask Wendy out on a date. Alas, his nervousness gets the best of him, and he instead invites her on a mysterious hunt he's planned with Mabel tomorrow, to which she happily agrees. But even so, Dipper's feelings continue to weigh on him in the form of a confession note in his vest pocket. The next day, Mabel, Dipper, and Seuss meet next to the tree where Dipper originally found the journal. And now that they know about the invisible ink, they know where the author's secret bunker might be hidden. A spiral staircase leading below the tree. The only problem is how to find the entrance. When Wendy arrives and mentions how excited she is for the mission, Dipper's stammering reply tips off to Mabel that he's still very much infatuated with Wendy, despite his insistence that it's not the case. Wendy notes an odd-looking branch near the top of the tree. With zero hesitation, she takes off her belt and adeptly climbs the tree with the skill of a lumberjack's daughter, hitting the branch with her axe and revealing that it was actually a lever. The tree lowers down to reveal the staircase, and Dipper emphasizes that whatever happens, they can't tell anyone about it. Everyone shows signs of agreement, including Wendy, who zips her lips and throws away the key. With that, they all step down into the mysterious bunker. And at first, it appears to be a small fallout shelter, and Dipper wonders what the author might have been preparing for. He also discovers a recently opened can, and Seuss suggests that maybe the author has been alive down here the whole time. After finding a secret passage and making their way through a trap that nearly crushes them to death,
One.
the team now stands inside a surveillance room. Mabel goes to retrieve Dipper's vest, which was caught at the exit of the trap, and finds his note to Wendy. Obviously, Mabel is totally super normal about this revelation and insists that Dipper has to be honest with Wendy about his feelings. But he refuses, afraid that Wendy will hate him. Mabel, always the romantic, isn't having it. She shoves Dipper into a strange metal closet that Wendy was checking out, shutting and locking the door until Dipper finally mans up and confesses. It's for his own good. At least that's what Mabel says. In search of a light, Wendy pulls a cord hanging from above, blasting the two with some sort of decontaminant. Then a new door opens, and behind them, a broken down laboratory full of pipes and tunnels appears before them. Scared by a creature in the shadows, Dipper tries banging on the door for Mabel to let them out, but she just thinks Dipper is making up excuses to get out of confessing to Wendy, who insists he should just tell her whatever it is Mabel wants him to say. Dipper, stubborn as always, decides they'll find another way out, and in his attempt, the shadow of a man appears, seemingly taking down the creature and saving the two from their likely demise. And it's Mark Hamill. I mean, it's the author, probably. I mean, that's what Dipper seems to think. The author seems to be concerned about one of his experiments, a shapeshifter that can take on the form of anyone or anything it sees. He asks Dipper for help catching it, and Dipper absolutely lights up at the idea of helping his hero with a mission. Meanwhile, Mabel and Seuss are still in the surveillance room, searching around, donning a spiffy lab coat and suitcase. Seuss asks Mabel if he looks smarter. Yes, he does. Mabel finds a monitor of the laboratory and a note, experiment number 210, the shapeshifter became too dangerous, placed in cryogenic stasis. This is when it finally dawns on the two of them that Dipper was not making excuses and was in fact trapped in a room with a horrifying creature of many faces. Whoops! Back with Dipper, he mentions he found one of his journals and hands it to the author, thinking it may help defeat the shapeshifter. The man eagerly flips through the pages, eyes scanning every illustration, and that's when Wendy quietly hands Dipper an empty can of beans, revealing the awful truth. The author is in fact the shapeshifter who has taken on the form of the bean can's mascot for the purpose of tricking Dipper into giving him the journal. Dipper asks for the journal back, and this is when Alex Hirsch reminds us that the kids' show is just horror in a fun animated trench coat. The shapeshifter grotesquely transforms into its true form, a semi-translucent larva-esque monster straight from my nightmare, and it continues to transform into a variety of creatures we've seen from previous episodes. But Wendy's able to get it hidden. Dipper grabs the journal, and the two run with the shapeshifter close behind. They're able to distract the creature, which gives them time to run into Mabel and Seuss, explain the situation, and come up with a plan. Dipper and Mabel split from the group, loudly discussing the journal and grabbing the attention of the shapeshifter, who turns into a disgusting amalgamation of the twins and chases after them. They draw it towards a pipe, and Seuss turns the water on, unleashing a torrent of water that washes over all of them, knocking Wendy out in the process. After the water drains, Dipper finds Wendy unconscious a ways away. He shakes her, but she's completely unresponsive. He starts to tear up, expressing his regret at never being honest with her about his feelings, finally admitting that he was in love with her. The scene is so heartbreaking, and wait, what? There's another Wendy standing right behind him, totally fine. This is awkward, but that is the least of their concerns now. The unconscious Wendy wakes up charging at real Wendy for the journal. The two wrestle for it, getting mixed up in the process. They both beg for help, and Dipper asks for a sign to tell them apart. The one on the left turns and winks at him, but the one on the right zips her lips and throws away the key. And this makes the decision obvious, and Dipper sinks Wendy's axe into the one on the left. God, could you imagine if he got that wrong? It screams in pain, returning to its original form. Dipper and Wendy shove it back into the cryo chamber and activate it. As hard as it tries, the shapeshifter just cannot escape. He transforms into Dipper and threatens him that if he keeps digging about the author, he will meet a fate worse than death. He screams in Dipper's form, which is immortalized within the ice. Definitely not traumatizing Dipper for life or anything, you know? Seeing your own self scream and die, me up, man, I'm not gonna lie. The four finally emerge back into the surface, exhausted. Mabel and Seuss leave Dipper and Wendy behind to talk. Dipper does not want to confront the fact that Wendy is now aware of his feelings, but Wendy reveals that she's basically always knew. Kind of obvious, man. They have an important heart-to-heart. She explains that she just might be too old for Dipper, but she has more fun with him than she has with anyone else, and she values their friendship immensely. She insists that they can both deal with some awkward. They shake hands on their friendship, and Wendy heads home. Suddenly, Mabel appears from nowhere, revealing that she and Seuss were eavesdropping the whole time. She apologizes for pushing Dipper, and Seuss expresses disappointment to not learning anything about the author. But he's happy he found the lab coat and briefcase. And that's when the case opens and it reveals this is not a briefcase at all, but instead it's a laptop with a label that reads property of F. Seuss says he should be able to fix it up in a few days, and Dipper prepares to finally find his next big clue on his mission to uncover the mystery of the true author. It's going to take a lot of work though, and a certain triangle may be preparing for his next move as well.
Literally nothing that can distract us from... Did you hear that?
Hey, let's have a puppet show instead. Freshly laundered, all new Gravity Falls. Next Monday night at 9 on Disney XD.
Now, it's been a few days in the Gravity Falls world, and Seuss is a handyman of his word. The laptop has been repaired, and Dipper is ready to boot up at the library and get all his answers. Answers that, unfortunately, seem to be locked behind a password. Shocking! But it's all right, because Mabel vows to team up with Dipper to break the, oh my god, it's a blonde guy with puppets. Yeah, Mabel's distracted by a new crush pretty much immediately. But can you blame her? I mean, he's wearing all black, sings to children. Mabel leaves Dipper to introduce herself to the puppeteer, Gabe Benson. And Gabe brightens up when Mabel insists that she loves puppets, and he asks her when her next puppet show is. After all, she wouldn't say she loves puppets and not constantly be planning puppet shows. Nervous about losing Gabe's interest, Mabel tells him she's planning a sock puppet rock opera complete with lights, original music, and live pyrotechnics. And it's in less than a week. Well, our girl's nothing if not ambitious. Dipper would prefer they focus on cracking the laptop, but Mabel promises she'll help if he assists her with the show for just a few days. And he can't say no to her big puppy dog eyes. They leave the library and start to work on the show. But lurking behind is the shadow of a certain familiar triangular menace. Cue show prep montage. By day, Mabel and Dipper are folding, gluing, and sewing to put together the big show. By night, Dipper chips away at the laptop, inputting random passcodes in the hopes that he'll happen upon the right one. Day after day, night after night, the poor guy is hardly getting any sleep. The show date is approaching, and Dipper is sitting on the roof continuing his work, when Bill suddenly materializes himself in a frozen mindscape. The three-sided demon of chaos tips his hat to Dipper and offers his assistance in return for a favor. Dipper immediately refuses, but Bill shrugs off the rejection and says he'll be ready whenever Dipper is ready to make a deal before returning Dipper back to reality. The next morning, Dipper tells Mabel about his confrontation with Bill. She lets Dipper know that her work is almost complete. she should be ready to help him get to work on the laptop today. Unfortunately, Gabe shows up. He's excited for Mabel's upcoming show and throws in some shade regarding other shows he's seen before, which definitely shakes Mabel's confidence a little bit. She shifts gears back to the show, wanting to revise things to make certain that everything is perfect for him. Disgruntled, Dipper says her crush is unimportant and that she's obsessed. But Mabel retaliates by saying he's been the obsessed one, hardly getting any sleep just to break the passcode when he could wait for her help. Dipper walks away frustrated, saying he'll figure out the laptop on his own. And I can't really blame Dipper here. Like, him and Mabel are 12. And yes, when you're 12 and you have a crush, it can seem like the entire world is being flipped on its head because you're head over heels in love and you're gonna be with them forever. Dipper, yes, he is absolutely obsessed, but we're talking about like potential world-ending consequences. I mean, they summoned zombies not that long ago. You know, they have a demon triangle trying to kill them. There's a lot going on here, but the sun is setting and Dipper exhaustedly inputs password after password in his room. Suddenly, the laptop announces too many failed entries. Initiate data erase in 5 minutes. The pressure is on and Bill is ready to snag that opportunity he has been presented with. He appears again to give Dipper a final chance at making a deal. Dipper asks Bill about his terms, and he claims that all he wants from Dipper is a puppet. After all, they clearly have more than enough. Dipper hesitates, not eager to give up something his sister worked hard on, but Bill leverages moments in the past where Dipper has helped his sister out at his own expense and successfully manipulated. Dipper reaches out his hand and shakes with Bill. The deal is complete. Still holding on to his hand, Bill rips Dipper's soul from his body, leaving it empty. He takes over the body as his own without any hesitation and laughs maniacally, lifting up the laptop and smashing it to the ground, crushing it with his foot for extra measure. Bill stumbles around in his newfound vessel, slapping himself and laughing at the pain he feels. He explains that Dipper's been getting too close to some answers and he doesn't want the boy to get in the way of whatever plan he's cooking up. Dipper says Bill will never find the journal, but Mabel pops in and quickly lets Dipper know that she's borrowing the journal for her show and leaves as quickly as she came. Dipper tries to chase after Mabel, but she can't hear his disembodied soul. Bill hitches a ride to the show with Wendy and Seuss, gloating that Dipper can't stop him if he doesn't exist. Dipper desperately chases after them to the theater, and luckily, souls don't have much use for doors. We cut to the Mystery Shack gang seated for the show. Bill Dipper? Dipper Bill? Let's go with Bill Dipper. Bill Dipper asks Mabel where she put the journal, and she says she plans to use it for the big wedding scene, but she still needs a reverend. Bill Dipper, okay, it's getting a bit tiring calling him that. I'm gonna go skip ahead and call him Bipper. Bipper happily volunteers for the role, ready to get his new hands on all that research. And with that, the show is ready to begin. Mabel goes to refresh in the green room and bam! Dipper uses a sock puppet of himself to speak to Mabel and lay down exactly what's been happening. And yes, I'm talking about Dipper and not Bipper. He begs her to go get the book before Bipper can. She agrees to go get the book while Dipper covers for her when the show starts. Above the stage, Mabel drops into the cake to grab the journal, shaking it loose, causing it to plummet to the ground. Or that would have happened if not for someone grabbing the rope. But of course, this savior is actually Bipper, ready to steal the journal away. He threatens to drop the cake and ruin the show if Mabel doesn't hand the book over. And she's tempted for a moment, but remembers how Dipper stopped his work to help her with her show. She yanks the book away from Bipper, sacrificing her show and letting the cake crash to the ground before duking it out with Bipper on stage. Again, just showing that yes, can Mabel be selfish at times? Of course. She's 12 years old, obviously. But when it comes to like that real serious shit, nah, Mabel's a real one. Mabel knows all of the weaknesses of Dipper's body. That mixed with all the stress Bill put his vessel through earlier, and he becomes easily exhausted by the physical confrontation. He collapses, forcing Bill from Dipper's body and leaving it open for Dipper to regain control. Though it isn't exactly a pleasant experience, Bill settles for the puppet Dipper was using earlier, saying he can't be stopped. And as he crawls through the box of, oh yeah, this show was supposed to have live pyrotechnic, Mabel activates the fireworks and blasts Bill's vessel to smithereens. The show's ruined. Gabe leaves disappointed and also kissing his puppets. Major bullet dodge. GG, Mabel. Bad tasted men, but you're a great person. The twins both apologize to one another for their own obsessions, and they walk away with Dipper groaning. that, yeah, he might need to go to the hospital. The next episode, Society of the Blind Eye, starts off not with Dipper and Mabel, but with Lazy Susan? All right, why not? She's cleaning up the diner after it's closed for the day, and as she looks up and leaves, she happens to see 4 gnomes making a heist attempt for a window pie. She shrieks in horror, not sure what it could mean that such beings exist, and calls 911. And in the midst of her explanation, 2 red-cloaked figures approach from behind and bag her head. They drag her into the night as the 3rd figure whispers, and now we're back with Dipper and Mabel. I'm sure Lazy Susan is totally fine. Mabel interrupts Dipper's mystery thinking time with a bottle from Mermando. Remember that guy? She gets her hopes up, thinking he may want to get back together with her, but she's faced with the harsh reality that he is having an arranged marriage with the Queen of the Manatees in order to prevent an undersea civil war. Crushed, she looks back on all her failed summer romances and wishes she could just forget them all. Dipper tries to console her by saying he hasn't really been successful in his mystery-solving endeavors either. And that's when Mabel spots a small plaque on the inside of the now smashed laptop. The plaque reads, McGucket Labs. And with this shocking new info, Dipper rearranges his conspiracy board and it all fits. Old Man McGucket wrote the journal. So much for running out of leads. In the gift shop of the shack, the twins interrupt Seuss torturing Wendy with a catchy new song and say they need to go see McGucket ASAP. The 4 all drive to the junkyard where he lives, and for the first time, we're able to see just what kind of state the old man lives in. A shack of metal and wood, harassed by teenagers and his own reflection. Dipper tells him to drop the act, that he knows McGucket's the author of the journal, but the old guy says he's never done anything worthwhile in his life. Dipper flips through the journal, trying to jog his memory, but McGucket is startled by a particular symbol, an eye with an X through it, labeled the blind eye. McGucket starts remembering bits and pieces about men who did something to his mind, but he can't recall any detail. Wendy asks when the earliest thing that he can remember is, and he holds up a newspaper with the headline, Disoriented Man Found at Museum. With this, the gang has placed to start to uncover McGucket's lost memory. The gang all breaks into the history museum to find the place empty. Mabel complains to Wendy about how she's feeling tormented by her failed romances everywhere she goes, but she isn't able to wallow in her pity for long. Seuss spots the shadow of a cloaked figure that quickly runs away and out of sight. The gang gives chase, finding themselves in a room absolutely covered in eyes. It's not disconcerting at all. Dipper notices that all the eyes are pointed in a singular direction, towards an old stone carving mounted on the wall. He presses it and it opens a secret passage into the fireplace. They all enter and hide behind a curtain from the cloaked figure that stands within the stone room. We're conducting some sort of ritual. They bring out Lazy Susan, seat her, ask her what she's seen, and after hearing her story, the leader of the group inputs the words "little men" into some ray gun looking device. And finally, they blast her with the gun, completely wiping her mind of the incident. I'm gonna be real too. It does not look painless, like at all. The cloaked figures confirm that she's feeling better and escort her away. The leader proceeds to remove a memory storage bottle from the memory gun and puts it into pneumatic tube. Yeah, that pressurized like airway like they have at banks. That's what they're called. Anyways, the tubes carry the memory storage container away to the Hall of the Forgotten. And after the society disbands, Mabel and Wendy stay in the ritual room to make sure they don't return, while Dipper and Seuss and McGucket head off to find wherever this Hall of the Forgotten is. After managing to avoid the cloaked members, the 3 boys find themselves exactly where they meant to be. It's a room with a ceiling covered in a web of tubes, all of which have to spat out thousands of memories piled up everywhere. Somewhere here are the memories McGucket is looking for. Back in the ritual room, Mabel continues to talk through her romance worries with Wendy, who says she should just forget about guys. Hearing that phrasing, Mabel grabs the memory gun and inputs summer romances in the hopes that using it will help her forget her pain. Wendy's unsure, but Mabel convinces her by mentioning that awful song she can't get out of her head. Surely this can only go well, right? Returning to the hall, the guys are eventually able to find the tube labeled McGucket Memories. But when they grab it, a sensor activates and sounds an alarm. And luckily, this alarm interrupts Mabel from going through with her plan, which, let's be real, was pretty terrible. The robed figures capture and tie up everyone except the old man, who's hiding in the ritual room. Since the 4 are going to have their minds erased regardless, the society decides to reveal their true selves. Toby, determined, Gideon's dad, They're all people who we recognize from around town. But the leader, Blind Ivan, always makes sure he stays forgotten. The society explains that they were formed for the purpose of protecting the town's peace of mind against the scary, confusing, and mysterious supernatural phenomenon that has existed around the town. In fact, they've used the memory gun on themselves so much that they can't even remember the founder. Everyone braces to have their memories wiped, but McGucket saves the day, throwing a frying pan to knock the gun out of Ivan's hand and arming the four with weapons he grabbed from the museum display. Cue chaotic brawl. After playing keep away with the memories and gun for a while, Ivan ends up victorious, holding both the gun and the memory. He points to shoot at the crew, but McGucket shields them. Turns out his mind has been so messed up over the years that the gun no longer works on him, which is actually really sad when you think about it, but let's focus on the upside, I guess. McGucket slaps the gun out of Ivan's hand and headbutts him hard. With the society beaten and tied up, Dipper inputs Society of the Blind Eye into the gun and blasts, destroying the society for good. Okay, finally, it's time to put McGucket's memory tube into the reader and see what he knows. And on the screen appears Biddleford Hadron McGucket, a scientist who wishes to unsee what he has seen. He explained that he's been working on an assistant for a visiting researcher for the past year, one who's been cataloging his findings about Gravity Falls in journals. Oh yeah, baby, that's right. McGucket continues that the researcher built a machine that he thought would benefit mankind, but something went wrong. That prompted McGucket to quit the project. Haunted by their work, he created the memory gun in order to forget everything that he's done. And in the preceding days, McGucket initiates the Blind Eye in order to help people like him who wish to forget. His mind slowly deteriorates as he relies on the gun, and the memories end with him, cackling while he makes a triangle with his fingers around his eye. The truth is sad, but McGucket is happy that he finally knows who he is and can work to put his life back together. He tells Dipper that he'll work to start remembering his past so that more information can be uncovered, and the gang leaves the museum to head home. Before the episode ends, we get a peek at Stan in the facility underneath the shack. He's pouring in some liquid to help fuel the machine that he's activated. Proclaims that he doesn't care if what he's doing is dangerous. No one is going to get in his way. Finally, after overcoming trials of time, love, and revenge, we're ready to get the answers we've been waiting for in the episode Not What He Seemed.
Do you really know Grunkle Stan?
Oh no!
You got the wrong guy.
You don't know your uncle at all.
The Gravity Falls you've waited for. Monday, March 9th at 8:30 on Disney XD.
Stan is finally ready to get his machine working, whatever it is, using some sort of liquid for power. Stan activates the machine, which now reads event initialized and presents a countdown for 18 hours. He looks down at the journal and reads an additional note, quote, extreme usage could result in minor gravity anomalies, end quote. Stan doesn't care about warnings though. He's come too far to let a little thing like that stop him from whatever he's about to do. He presses a button and the triangular machine whirs to life, an array of symbols in a circle spinning in a rainbow blur as something ripples within. In the dead of night, everything within the town lifts a little before falling back down. And I wish I slept well enough to not notice that. Stan sets a wristwatch to sync with the countdown and leans back. Everything changes today. That morning, Mabel drags Dipper out of bed to show him something she found in a random closet, a box full of fireworks. The two excitedly prepare for a rooftop fireworks show, and of course, Stan wants in. As a family, they all laugh and set off the fireworks, leaving bits of fire in their wake. While the kids clean up the mess with water balloons, Stan sits comfortably on the couch outside, watching the kids have the greatest summer with their greatest uncle. He stops them, saying he wants to tell them something, but awkwardly changes the subject and goes back inside to get another drink. When he walks away, his thoughts are interrupted by a laser beam pointed at his head. He's tackled to the ground right as he realizes what's happening, and Agent Trigger comes into view, giving the go-ahead for the house to be secured. The twins are scared and confused while masked guards break down the windows of the shack. The agents explain to both Stan and the kids that someone broke into a government facility and robbed 300 gallons of dangerous waste, and they are certain that it was Stan. Stan retaliates and says he was restocking the gift shop all night. They've got the wrong guy. Powers continues to explain to the twins that somewhere in the shack, Stan is hiding a doomsday device. The twins are taken into protective custody while their grunkle is taken away for questioning, screaming that for once, he's innocent. In the interrogation room, Stan is immediately struggling to keep his cool. He asks for his phone call and asks Seuss that he guards the vending machine with his life. Seuss, the homie that he is, readily agrees and heads straight to the shack with determination. Meanwhile, Dipper and Mabel concoct a plan to get the security tapes from the shack before they can be taken into protective custody. And as the agents' vehicles pull alongside the truck of Manly Dan, you know, Manly Dan, Wendy's volatile lumberjack dad, Mabel fogs up the window and writes something to provoke him. Manly Dan swerves his truck into the government car and it tumbles into a ditch in the woods. The twins take away Agent Trigger's earpiece and make their escape back to the shack to prove their grunkle's innocence, but not before Trigger sows some seeds of doubt into Dipper's head. Meanwhile, Stan starts to come up with his own escape plan with the help of the gravitational anomaly. The twins manage to make their way into Stan's office and find some hidden security monitors. Dipper finds the time where Stan was restocking the gift shop, just as he said, but then Stan leaves. Dipper fast forwards the tape a few times, but Stan doesn't return until 5 a.m. in a hazmat suit, carting barrels of, you guessed it, toxic waste. In disbelief, Dipper looks below the monitors to find a box full of passports and IDs. In each one is Stan's photo, but different names. Stetson Pinefield, Hal Forrester, Andrew 8-Ball Alcatraz. No names that the kids know Stan by. And then Mabel pulls out a newspaper and the headline reads, Stan Pine's dead, and details a fiery car crash with the brakes cut. An additional news clipping says, unnamed grifter at large with Stan's photo. None of this is looking very good for Stan or whoever this man might be. Reeling from this discovery, the two look at one another and wonder, is this even their grunkle Stan? Is he even their grunkle? In the box, a loose paper gives the secret code to a hideout. The shape of the code reveals the truth we've known the whole time. The vending machine has been a hidden door all along. There's 13 minutes left on the countdown and Stan is waiting for his opportunity to escape. Agent Powers enters the room to take Stan away, but the countdown hits 12 minutes and everything starts to lift up higher than before. Through a series of impressive maneuvers, Stan breaks his chair, nabs the key to the cuffs, and escapes the police station. He sends a taxi as a decoy, and the agents clear the shack in order to find him. The twins run to the vending machine to get their answers, but Seuss is guarding it like he said he would, and is very reluctant to let even them enter. Though he's held back by Seuss, Dipper manages to put the code in and open the vending machine. And Seuss, who was unaware of the vending machine's true nature, decides to accompany the twins down the stairs and into the basement where they find a whirring device like in the bunker, the other two journals, and the doomsday device the agents told them about. And at the same time, Stan rushes into the shack to head down there himself. Dipper claims that Stan likely stole the journals from the author, given his criminal history. He joins the journals together on the blueprint pages, turns on his blacklight, revealing a series of warnings that tell of the destruction the machine would cause to not just the world, but the universe itself. 1 minute, 15 seconds. The three run to shut down the machine while the whole town crumbles. They unlock the shutdown button, brightly glowing red and ready to end this whole ordeal. Just as Dipper is about to hit the button, Stan sprints in screaming. The three look at him in silence as he catches his breath, the light of the machine illuminating them all. Stan begs them not to touch the button, approaching them with open hands, saying they have to trust him. But how could they after all the lies they uncovered? I mean, imagine being in their position right now. Stan tries to explain, but another gravitational anomaly occurs, lifting them all up and tossing them around the room. Mabel is able to pull her way towards the button, and Stan begs her to stop, to please trust him. Tears float from her eyes while she looks at a man she isn't even sure is her grunkle anymore. The countdown's at 20 seconds, and the force from the machine pins everybody to the wall, everyone but Mabel, who is still clinging to the button. Stan pleads his case. He wanted to tell the kids that they'd heard bad things about him, and some of them are true, but everything that he's worked for has been for the sake of this family. Dipper yells out to Mabel, needs to listen to her head, that the machine is dangerous and needs to be shut down. Mabel looks between the two as they both beg her to see their side, and that's when she makes her choice. She lets go of the button, puts her hands in the air, uttering the words Stan wanted to hear most. A bright light overtakes them all as they float for a time, and then everything crashes back to the ground. The machine, physically wrecked but still functioning, glows blue, and a cloaked silhouette appears and walks through it with confidence, approaching the first journal, which is laying on the ground, and picking it up with a six-fingered hand. Dipper asks who it is, and Stan gives us the answer.
My brother.
We have been waiting 31 episodes to hear. It's the author of the journals, his brother. And with Stan's brother back from whatever dimension he was trapped in, the episode A Tale of Two Stans opens, and he is not happy with this stunt Stan pulled. He punches his brother and explains that reopening the portal was incredibly risky. Stan thought his brother would be grateful for being saved, but instead he still holds something against Stan from 30 years ago. However, his anger cuts short when he discovers that he has a niece and nephew, their sister Shermie's grandchildren, and happily shakes Mabel's hand. Meanwhile, Dipper is practically hyperventilating over all of this new information. Not only is he finally meeting the author of the journals, but the author is a long lost uncle from another dimension. I mean, I gotta admit, it's a lot to take in even for me, let alone a 12-year-old. Stan's brother addresses him as Stanley, but that's weird. Stan's name is Stanford, right? Nope. Turns out Stan took his brother's name. That's right, Stanley and Stanford Pine. Everyone starts demanding answers from Stan, and he finally relents to tell the full story. The year is 1960 whatever in Glass Shard Beach, New Jersey. He and his twin brother, who will preemptively start calling Ford, were brought up by their stoic father and phone psychic mother. Ford, an intelligent boy who was born with a 6-fingered birth defect, was fascinated by science fiction and the supernatural due to his odd trait. Stan, on the other hand, was a lot more rough and tumble and less academic. Despite their differences, the two would spend hours every day roaming the beach in search of adventure. Even through harsh bullying, they always had one another. And one day they found a shipwrecked boat in a small cave and dug it out to the shore, dubbing it the Stan-O War. From then on, they would spend their free time slowly repairing the ship with the shared dream of exploring the world together in search of real adventure, even into their high school year. As time flew by, it became more and more clear that Ford had an exceptional aptitude for academia. Meanwhile, Stan was able to keep up by copying his brother's, studying his brother's work. Then, one day, the principal called the twins' parents to speak and explained to them that West Coast Tech, aka the best college in the country, was interested in Ford's most recent science experiment, the perpetual motion machine. All the while, Stan is eavesdropping from outside the office. The principal makes it clear that Stan has absolutely no gift in the world of education. Upon hearing this, Stan looks to the ground, feeling the weight of what it means to be different from his brother, the only one who was ever there for him through thick and thin. Later on the beach, Stan is surprised when Ford says that he is in fact thinking of leaving to attend the school. It's an incredible opportunity that would allow him the resources to make all sorts of new discoveries. He tells Stan that if the college board isn't impressed with his experiment, he'll continue on with their plans to take the boat treasure hunt. And that night, Stan stews in the halls of his school, and in his frustration, slams the table and causes something in its internals to break. Stan drops his snack and immediately expresses regret. He tries to repair it before leaving the scene, but it's a surface level fix. The next morning, Ford shows the college board his machine, but it's no longer functioning. The board leaves unimpressed, and Ford finds the bag Stan left behind, which immediately identifies his brother as the likely suspect. Ford confronts his brother about sabotaging his project, who tries to look on the bright side and mentions that they can at least treasure hunt together. But that's off the table. How could a brother and a friend ruin the future of someone that they supposedly care about? Their father overhears the two arguing and completely disowns Stan.
You ignoramus, you're not welcome in this household. What?
Stan leaves spiteful and begins his travels across the country, looking for a way he could make money and redeem himself. He finds himself a spot as a traveling salesman, selling low-quality items with his charm and his charisma, and neither of those things were enough to hide the absolutely abysmal quality of what he was selling. And he was chased out of New Jersey for it. But this never deterred Stan. He moved from the state to state with a new name and new products to sell, occasionally getting into trouble with his get-rich-quick schemes while he was at it. In the meantime, Ford went to school at Backups More, working twice as hard in order to get the education and have access to the resources that he truly wanted. He obtained his PhD 3 years ahead of schedule and was awarded a large grant for his own scientific research. He decided to dedicate his studies to scientific anomalies like his extra fingers, and this focus took him to Gravity Falls, Oregon, where these occurrences had been recorded more than anywhere else in the world. By this point, there were few states left that Stan wasn't banned in. Luckily, Oregon was included in that small list, and he'd get the opportunity to visit soon. Ford bought a cabin in the woods in Gravity Falls, dedicating himself to his studies immediately and recording the findings in the first of his journals. Cue Dipper absolutely fangirling over this part. Ford spent his days recording everything he saw, eventually coming to the conclusion The best way to study all of this strange phenomena was to build a portal to whatever dimension the weirdness was leaking out from. And for this project, he recruited Fiddleford McGucket, a brilliant engineer he met at his college. The two spent long nights building and perfecting the machine, and when it finally came to test it, McGucket was dragged inside with the dummy they used. Half submerged and subject to whatever lay beyond, Ford was able to grab the rope and his partner was attached to and reel him back into his own dimension. But he laid on the ground speaking gibberish before saying, "When gravity falls and earth becomes sky, fear the beast with just one eye." I wonder who that could be referring to. McGucket fearfully insists that Ford destroy the machine, but he refuses to dismantle his life's work. McGucket removes himself from the project, going on to found the Society of the Blind Eye in hopes that he may forget what he saw within the portal. In need of someone he can trust, Ford eventually sends a postcard to Stan in New Mexico, who heeds the request for help and makes the trip up to the cabin in Oregon, a home that is now surrounded by barbed wire and signs that demand everyone stay out. It's been 10 years, and Stan is ready to reunite with his brother. But when he knocks on the door, Ford answers by shoving a crossbow in his face. The man is a paranoid wreck. He tells his brother he's made terrible mistakes. He doesn't know who he can trust. He takes Stan downstairs to show him the portal, explaining that it could unlock the secrets of the universe, but just as easily be harnessed for absolute destruction. He's hidden 2 of his 3 journals and wants Stan to take the last one. The first, he asks his brother to get on a boat like he always wanted, take the journal and travel far away, bury it where no one will find it. And Stan is furious. After all this time, the two finally see one another, and all Ford tells him to do is get as far away from him as possible. He lashes out at Ford, calling Ford selfish for staying isolated with his college money. Ford argues back that Stan is the selfish one for costing him his dream school out of jealousy, and that he's allowing Stan the first worthwhile thing in his life. So now furious, Stan takes out his lighter and threatens to burn the journal, but Ford doesn't want his research completely destroyed. The two wrestle for the journal, Stan getting shoved against one machine with a fiery hot emblem on its side and branding his back in the process, but he's too upset to care. He punches Ford, who falls onto the switch for the machine, activating it, and then shoves Ford again, who begins to float up and towards the portal. Stan watches in fear and confusion as his brother is pulled through the portal, screaming and throwing his journal away towards Stan, and then the machine turns off, completely out of fuel. Stan tried for weeks to turn the machine back on, using only one journal, but it was hopeless without the information the others held. He finally ventured into the town to buy food and realized that he could pass as his twin brother, who the town saw as a mysterious recluse in the wood. With the townspeople's interest, Stan started selling himself as a man who specializes in mystery, allowing people to visit the shack and see what strange devices lay within. However, once he actually brought his first group of people into the cabin, he found his own talent for supernatural storytelling. He began to concoct his own creations to amuse visitors and sell merchandise within a gift shop he sets up within the home. Finally, Stan had found something he was truly good at. He faked a car crash to continue passing as his brother, running the mystery shack by day and working to bring his brother back by night. He lied to everyone about everything in order to keep his mission alive and reduce risk. Back to the present day's agents' voices are heard from above. Totally forgot about those guys. And so did Seuss. And hearing this, Dipper realizes that forgetting may be the key to their current predicament. He pulls out the memory gun from episode 7 and hands it to Ford, who sets it to a radio frequency and broadcasts the signal through the speakers within the totem pole outside. The agents, dazed and confused, see Ford emerge from the cabin. He pretends to be their superior officer, saying they've made a mistake, and sends them back on their way back to Washington. Dipper immediately wants to question Ford about anything and everything related to Gravity Falls, but Stan forcefully sends him and Mabel away so that he and Ford can talk in private. For a moment, they lightheartedly joke about their age, but Ford quickly gets down to brass tacks. He says Stan can stay in the shack to watch the kids, but once they head home, Stan has to give him back his house, his name, and shut down the mystery shack. Stan, bitter about not receiving any thanks for all the work he's put in to get Ford back, agrees on the condition that Ford stay away from the kids. As far as he's concerned, they're the only family he has left. And back in their room, Dipper and Mabel are concerned about how things will now change that Ford is back. Dipper was excited to meet the author, but he wasn't expecting him to come with all this personal, emotional baggage. Mabel sees the brothers' tension and hopes that she and Dipper don't turn out that way. And her brother reassures her that won't happen. But she can't help but stay awake that night, worried about their future.
A magical quest.
I am literally obsessed with unicorns. Are you even looking at the sweater I'm wearing right away.
Monday, September 7th at 8:30 on Disney XD.
Now, in the next episode, The Last Mabel Corn, Ford has settled back into his cabin, now the Mystery Shack, and sleeps comfortably on the couch in his old room. Well, as comfortable as you can get when your dreams are haunted by your past and also a three-sided demon of mad. Ford demands that Bill show himself, and Bill greets him in a familiar fashion. He says that shutting down the machine will not stop what he has planned. He's certain that Ford will slip up and allow something to happen to the rift between dimensions that he's been keeping safe, which Ford showed to Dipper 2 episodes prior. Bill creates a vision where he opens a rift. The field Ford standing in lights ablaze as a portal of madness engulfs the sky. And then he wakes up. He has to warn his family. That morning, Ford calls for a family meeting. He holds up a scroll with Bill on it and asks the kids if they know the symbol, and they immediately recognize who it is. Dipper asks Ford how he knows Bill, but he dodges the question. He says that they'll need to Bill-proof the shack, which he can do with moonstones, mercury, and unicorn hair. He seems particularly annoyed at this last ingredient, but Mabel perks up immediately because obviously she loves unicorns and she is convinced that she is pure-hearted enough to gain their approval. Ford warns her that unicorns are difficult to deal with, but allows Mabel to go to the quest to retrieve the hair with Candy, Granada, and Wendy. Ford thinks the likelihood of Mabel's success is low and has Dipper help him with the backup plan. If they can't Bill-proof the shack, they'll have to Bill-proof their minds direct. He takes Dipper down to his private study where he keeps his most ancient and secret knowledge. Ford rushes his nephew along before he can take a close look at anything and takes out a helmet that he says will allow them to protect their mind. Mabel and the rest of the girls find themselves in the enchanted glade that Ford mentioned where the unicorns reside. And with Grenda's help blowing an ancient chant, they summon the entrance to the unicorn's grotto. Laying in front of a waterfall, she sits a white unicorn with rainbow hair and eyes so big and sparkling, you'd think we were watching a shoujo anime from the early 2000s. The unicorn's name is, I'm gonna try my best here, Celesta Bella Be the Bella, I think. And she claims to be the last of her kind. She calls forth one who has a pure, perfect heart to take her hair, and Mabel steps forth. However, Celesta Bella rejects Mabel, saying her heart is not pure and sending the group away. Her friends expect her to feel dejected, but instead Mabel is emboldened to do so many good deeds that she can't be turned away. Back with Ford, Dipper sits in a chair with the Bill-proofing helmet on his head. He asks Ford what exactly Bill is, to which Ford replies, no one knows for sure. He shows Dipper some old documents containing accounts of Bill that date back to ancient time. He's a being much older than our galaxy with unknown motivation. Ford explains to Dipper that Bill can't show himself to this dimension, at least not without a physical form, which he can obtain when the rift opens. Ford's mind is protected by a metal plate in his head, but Dipper's mind can be bioelectronically encrypted using the device he's wearing on his head. And once again, Dipper asked Ford what his history with Bill is, but Ford insists that this isn't important and directs Dipper to focus on thoughts to begin the process. With the help of her friends and a montage, Mabel is able to complete 1,000 good deeds in a single day. God damn, I wish I was that efficient. She returns to the unicorn's grotto and requests to be retried by Celesta Bell the Bell. But she is immediately denied once again as a bad person. And at this, Mabel's heart is crushed. Wendy, who thinks Mabel is literally the best person she knows, takes Grenda and Candy aside and hypes them up to take the unicorn's hair by force. After some illegal butterfly trading and an undercover police bust, they've got the goods and start the heist. They throw the bag of dust at Celeste the Bell, who passes out, and Wendy prepares to cut the hair. But Mabel discovers them and yells at them to stop. Wrenching the scissors away from Wendy, this wakes the unicorn up, who sees Mabel holding the scissors and proclaims the girl will never be good at heart. And that's when 2 more unicorns appear from the trees and explain that unicorns only pull the pure of heart scam so humans leave them alone and they can keep their hair to themselves. Angry that Mabel called her own morality into question because of this glorified horse, she punches Celeste Bell in the snout, initiating a brawl between the girls and the unicorn. And while the fight ensues, Dipper sits with his brain being scanned, wondering why Ford is being so secretive about Bill. He decides to scan his uncle's thoughts while he naps to find out what he's hiding by force. Once the helmet's put on Ford, a series of memories play on the monitor, most important of all being the last. Ford and Bill shaking hands, and Ford allowing the demon into his mind. On the screen, Ford's eyes glow yellow as Bill laughs maniacally through him. Ford is awoken and he throws the helmet to the ground, pulling down a sheet that unveils the hidden features of his study, all depicting Bill like a deity. Dipper frantically asked Ford why he was shaking hands with Bill in his memory, clumsily grabbing the rift and holding it away from the man who may be possessed by Bill. Ford tells Dipper to calm down and give him back the rift, but Dipper's paranoid and anxious and ready to use the memory gun to erase Bill from Ford's mind. He shoots the gun at Ford, but the plate in his head deflects the shot. Ford grabs Dipper and makes him look into his eyes to see his pupils, which are human. Dipper then apologizes for trying to erase Ford's mind, but the man understands. After all, he too was once tricked by Bill. Back when he was still researching Gravity Falls, he happened upon a method to summon Bill painted onto the walls of an old cave. He'd hit a roadblock with his work and decided to recite the incantation. I mean, what's the worst that could happen? However, Bill later showed himself in Ford's mindscape and told Ford that he's a muse who chooses one brilliant mind to inspire every century. Partners in research, the two would communicate frequently, and Bill would be let into Ford's body at will. In fact, Bill was the one who told Ford that he could complete his research by building a gate to the dimension of weirdness. After the events with McGucket, Ford confronted Bill, who revealed his true intention: to create a rift big enough to allow him and his chaotic friends into their dimension to wreak havoc. And this is when Ford decided to hide his research, leading up to the moment he called his brother for help. Now, Dipper is still embarrassed by his earlier actions, but Ford promises no more secrets between them. Dipper is distressed about the broken machine, but right on cue, Mabel and her crew enter, covered in rainbow blood and bruises, with a bundle of unicorn hair in hand. Ford reassures Mabel that she is indeed a good person for protecting her family, and now with the hair, Dipper and Mabel are able to set up the shield to protect all within the shack from Bill, who prepares to find his next pawn outside the shack.
It's okay, Dipper. You should totally go with Uncle Ford to save the world or whatever.
Monday, October 12th at 8 on Disney XD.
The episode Dipper and Mabel vs. the Future opens up with Mabel waking Dipper up with a very, very important announcement. The two of them will be turning 13 in just 1 week. The twins are ecstatic at the prospect of teenagerhood, and Mabel is immediately ready to get her party planning on. But Stan breaks the news that after the last party at the shack, he is not willing to allow another party to just be thrown just yet. I mean, can you blame him? The last time they did this, an army of the dead showed up. I kind of get where he's coming. Seuss tells Mabel she should just rent out the local high school gym, which is empty all summer, which she thinks is a fantastic idea. And that's when Ford calls Dipper back into his room to discuss the dimensional rift, which is now cracking. Ford fears that if it's fragile enough to break, it could result in reality completely unraveling in an event he's dubbed Weirdmageddon. He locks up the rift in a soft case and requests Dipper's help in patching the rift. Dipper hesitates and asks about Mabel, but she gives a happy go-ahead for Dipper to go on the mission with Ford. She gives him a walkie-talkie so the two can communicate while they go about their own mission.
It's your first big mission with Ford. A chance to prove yourself. Don't mess this up. Ow! Ah!
Eager to prove himself to Ford on their first big missions together, Dipper runs off with his great uncle. Mabel, on the other hand, goes off to Gravity Falls High School, which, much to her surprise, isn't empty at all. It's full of unhappy-looking kids preparing to register for class, Wendy included. Mabel asks about her high school experience, expecting antics and whimsy, but instead, Wendy warns of horror, anxiety, and angst, saying she would do anything to be 12 again. Mabel leaves the gym disillusioned and downtrodden. She takes out her walkie to contact Dipper and open up about her concerns regarding high school, but Dipper's in a spot without a strong connection. To cheer her up, Seuss decides to take her to go hand out invites to her friend. From here, Dipper tries to get his walkie-talkie to pick up the signal better, but to no avail. But his frustration is interrupted by Ford showing off where they've been headed this whole time. That's right. We're back to the cliffs, where the twins fought against Gideon. Ford points out the odd shape of the cliffs, oblong with something more spherical in the center. Oh shit, we got aliens. That's right. Based on his research, Ford theorizes that the Valley of Gravity Falls was formed when an extraterrestrial object crash landed there millions of years ago. And they are standing on the landing site. He moves aside a rock to reveal an exposed part of the ship and uses an extremely powerful magnetic gun to pull off the panel, giving them away inside the craft. Ford hands the awestruck Dipper a magnet gun and climbs down into the craft. Ford explains that the reason they're looking for an incredibly strong alien adhesive that was used in its creation and repair. Using the magnet gun, he attaches to a giant metal pillar and flies down deeper into the craft, with an ease that can only be described as badass. Dipper tries to follow, and well, I mean, the boy's got spirit. That's what counts. Returning to Mabel's birthday mission, she knocks on Grenda's door to find both her and Candy hanging out. She hands them an invitation, but seeing the date, they both break the news that they won't be able to attend due to other predetermined plans. And it dawns on Mabel that her friends not only won't be able to go to her birthday party, they also won't be able to wish her goodbye when she leaves at the end of the summer. They all hug, and Mabel steps away to radio Dipper for emotional backup, but deep in the alien ship, the signal isn't able to reach it. While exploring the ancient rooms of the spacecraft, Ford asks Dipper what his future prospects are. Dipper mentions a plan to start his own ghost hunting show, and Ford chuckles as he's reminded of himself when he was younger. He says that if Dipper really wants, he could train him as an apprentice and give him a better education than any school ever could. And Dipper's clearly interested, but he is worried about his sister being alone in California. The two have never been apart before. And Ford reassures him that Mabel will have no trouble at all making friends, and tells Dipper to consider if he feels like he's meant for something more. Uncertain, Dipper lists everything he was wrong about, using the magnetic gun as an example. But using said gun, he manages to find the adhesive they were looking for. Then the two hear something. Ford realizes that they've reactivated the security system. 2 security droids approach them using adrenaline to detect their presence. Ford tells Dipper all he has to do is suppress his fear, but that's easier said than done. Dipper freaks out, completely letting his emotions get the best of him, and the droid poises to shoot. Ford protects Dipper and takes the shot while also deactivating one of the droids with the magnet gun, but the other one extends ropes that tie Ford up and hold him within its body. Ford takes out the rift and slides it to Dipper, demanding that he fix the rift on his own before the droid flies off with him. Dipper puts the rift in his backpack and chases after Ford, who's now being sent to space prison. He uses the magnetic gun to attach to the miniship, sending Ford off, punching at the hull while the ship erratically flies around town, which knocks Ford out. Dipper's able to knock the ship out with a gun and sends it crashing into the forest. And in the wreckage, Ford lay motionless and Dipper drags him out from the pod. The security drone has followed them, and now it's Dipper's responsibility to protect his great uncle from its aim. He turns to the drone and proclaims that nothing is going to hurt his family. Sensing Dipper's steady heartbeat, the drone shuts down for good, just in time for Ford to wake up and thank the boy for saving his life. He uses this moment as an example of Dipper's potential, boosting his confidence and preparing him for the idea of truly staying in the town as Ford's apprentice once the summer ends. And while Dipper is getting a boost to his self-worth, Mabel is feeling more disheartened than ever. Stan comes into her room to try and cheer her up and says that whatever happens, at least she'll have her brother with her. Oof, that's some really terrible timing right there, because she overhears the radio as Ford and Dipper continue their conversation. Dipper agrees to Ford's request, officially becoming his apprentice. Want to add, we have not spoken to the parents yet. just to clarify that. But now when he gets back home and tries to regale Mabel with that day's crazy adventure, she's curled up on her bed, heartbroken. Dipper asks her what's wrong, and she reveals that she heard the whole conversation. Tears fill up her eyes as she expresses how betrayed she feels. She isn't ready for the world to move around her so quick. She just wants that summer to last forever. Dipper puts his hand on her shoulder and says things can't stay this way forever. But Mabel isn't in the headspace to hear that. She runs off with her backpack into the woods to be alone for a while. But even then, she has no comfort since she's taken the wrong backpack, Dipper's. That's when Blandon, that guy, the time guy, he comes and says summer can indeed last forever. He tells of a time bubble that can engulf Gravity Falls and allow summer to last as long as she would like it to. All she has to do is get him the rift. That'll help him create it. She checks Dipper's bag, and yup, there it is. With sadness and hope in her eyes, she hands Blandon the rift, and he immediately smashes it to the ground. He laughs maniacally, his voice shifting into one we know all too well. Bill. I mean, of course it was, right? Bill snaps his fingers and knocks Mabel unconscious, declaring as Weirdmageddon is now underway. Bill floats in the sky, now a fully physical triangle of light, cackling at the gateway between Gravity Falls and his nightmare realm. Mabel's body is lifted and trapped inside a pink bubble. Not exactly what I'd call a super secure prison. Oh wait, it also gets sealed with a shooting star and chains, so all right, fair game, I guess. Blandon warps away, telling his superiors about a situation, and Bill in his new 3D form looms above the town and demands the attention of its people. He is now their lord, their master, for all eternity. He introduces the folks to his nightmare realm friends, an assortment of demons and unknowable horrors, and he's ready to unleash upon his new domain. The people of Gravity Falls attempt to fight back, you know, if fighting back means asking very strongly for Bill to leave, but Bill gives Mr. Northwest the most traumatic experience of his life and turns Officer Derlin to stone. The start of what will become a throne of petrified humans. He raises up his pyramid castle and sets loose bubbles of pure madness, ready to enjoy his plan finally coming to fruition. After we're treated to a new twisted and warped version of our beloved intro, we remember, oh yeah, Dipper and Ford are still back at the shack. Dipper can sense Mabel's in trouble. The twins' intuition is really kicking into high gear, and the fact that she was carrying a cracked interdimensional rift in her backpack, but as he runs off to save her, Ford steps in and tells him they're gonna have to stop Bill before they can save Mabel. He isn't sure it can be done, but he tells Dipper that being a hero means fighting back even when the odds seem impossible. And meanwhile, a wave of madness hits the town, affecting animals, stores, and even Seuss's abuelita. Luckily, she says she'll be fine, so Seuss is able to head off to help the gang fight off the nightmares being thrust upon them. They're gonna need help too, because the destruction caused by the wave of madness allows Gideon to break free from prison. And yes, the freak is very excited about Bill's rule. Fantastic. We love that. From atop the Gravity Falls Church, Ford unveils Experiment 618, or a quantum destabilizer to me and you, to destroy Bill for good. As Ford is about to take his shot, the wave hits the church and brings the church bell to life, startling him and knocking him off target. He hits Bill's hat, which is vaporized, revealing meat and bone within before it regenerates. From here, Bill makes them pay instantly by summoning a gigantic laser cannon and obliterates the church tower. Dipper luckily is all right, but Ford is trapped under some rubble, and as he tries to muster the strength to tell Dipper his other way of defeating Bill, the Triangle of Terror towers over them. Well, he towers over Ford. Dipper manages to hide in time. Bill grabs Ford and turns him into a golden statue, telling his buddies that this all wouldn't be possible without him. Determined to get his great uncle back, Dipper shows himself to Bill and threatens him with a journal. He flips through, desperate to find something to stop the demon while bombarded with his taunts. But at the end, he resorts to leaping at Bill with his fist, ready to punch him square in the eye. And obviously this didn't work, though it would have been beyond cool if it did, and Dipper is deflected back into a tree very hard. Bill then takes all 3 journals and completely incinerates them, leaving Dipper to get chomped on by his henchmaniac. He runs for his life and manages to hide just long enough to make his way to the Gravity Malls. Damn, that's a good name. While exploring the rubble of what used to be the mall, Dipper finds a box of untouched nachos, and what I like to call totally not a trap. Dipper lets his stomach win and completely falls for it, and I'm not gonna lie, I would have fallen for the nachos too. I can never say no to a good plate of nachos, but luckily for him, it was a trap set up by Wendy, who then frees him and takes him to her hideout. She explains that she's with her friends when it happened and they all got petrified. Then Dipper opens up about his fight with Mabel. He feels hopeless about defeating Bill because the last 2 times he dealt with him, he had his sister. Wendy claims that if that's the case, all they need to do is rescue her. And luckily, her bubble isn't very incognito, and the 2 immediately know where they need to head to find her. While all this chaos is happening, Bill's having a rave party in his pyramid. I just want to point that, this pyramid, it's such a good word. He's interrupted by the Time Police and the Time Baby, but Bill completely obliterates them with a flick of his finger. What is he, some god? Oh yeah, I guess he is. One of his crew reports that Dipper got away and is pretty worried that he might get in the way of Bill's plan somehow. But when you've literally got the world in the palm of your hand, you guys can understand why Bill really isn't all that worried. Not even to mention, he preemptively put Gideon on the case of handling that little threat, if you could even call him that. How can one boy stop what even Time Baby can't? Back on the ground, Dipper and Wendy prepare to steal a car to safely drive to Mabel, but right on cue, Gideon and his gang of prison escapees surround them with trucks Mad Max style. Gideon's been appointed as keeper of Mabel's bubble and has the only key on his person. He plans to use the infinite time he has to eventually win Mabel over, and then he'll finally have her love. He's made one crucial mistake though. He tried to mess with Wendy Corduroy. She easily breaks the arm of one of Gideon's henchmen, steals the key off Gideon, using him as a shield to keep his men away. and Wendy and Dipper break into a car and kick Gideon back to his men. Questionable decision, but all right. And they hightail it to where Mabel is imprisoned, managing to dodge the weirdness at every turn. The two fly the car across a ravine and crash horribly, but they're so close to Mabel, and luckily Seuss is there to help them make the final stretch. However, Gideon is still hot on their heels and quickly has them surrounded. He's ready to finally win Mabel's heart, but Dipper gets him to start questioning everything. After all, would Mabel ever forgive him if she learned about his part in all this? Gideon would have a much better chance if he changed for the better and actually helped them out. And help them out he does.
Guys, new plan. Bill's minions are gonna be on us in seconds, but I'm not gonna let that dumb triangle be the warden of me.
Fully convinced, he rolls out with his crew to confront Bill's army and hold them off from getting in the gang's way. Finally, nothing stands in their way from entering the bubble and saving Mabel. Oh, it is getting good.
A world gone weird.
Mabel's bubble is the most diabolical trap I've ever created.
Brand new Gravity Falls, Monday, November 23rd at 8 on Disney XD.
Before we can save Mabel, we've got to take another peek at what Bill's up to. He's sitting high and mighty on his throne of human agony and ready to take their party worldwide. But much to his shock, his demons can't escape some sort of shield that encompasses Gravity Falls. Back to the drawing board, Bill. And with that out of the way, Dipper, Wendy, and Seuss enter Mabel's bubble where they find, well, this. Hey, for a prison that doesn't seem half bad. Yeah, basically Mabel's prison isn't as horrifying as Dipper expected it to be. In fact, it's a dream bubble where she can manifest anything that she can think of. It's a world of rainbows, cute mascots, and even cuter boys. Speaking of, Zyler and Kraz, you know those guys from Mabel's favorite film? They show up to take Dipper and the gang on a tour of Mabel's paradise. And while on the tour, they mention that there are no rules. Well, except for one rule. But no one would ever break it, so who cares? Shut up. Eventually, the tour takes them to where Mabel's staying. The three of them head to where Mabel is, in the tallest tower, protected by buff waffle guard. That's right, waffle guards. Not pancake guards, not French toast guards, waffle guards. Durable. Apparently not. Seuss and Wendy make quick work of the guards and find Mabel sleeping at the top of her tower. In the dark room, they try to rescue her by holding back the guards, but Mabel claps her hands and stops everything with ease, lighting up the room and revealing that she has complete control over everything in this domain. That is to say, she's reluctant to leave it all. To put it lightly, she has no desire to be saved. After all, this is basically her ideal life, especially after Dipper made those plans to stay in Gravity Falls for his apprenticeship with Ford and leave her behind. Of course, her brother thinks it's crazy, which is why she also created Dippy Fresh, a brother with a more supportive attitude. Damn, girl. Now, from here, it isn't long before Wendy is brought over by an illusion of her friends wanting to play pranks, and Seuss is then lured away by what he thinks his dad might look like. And Dipper leaves the tower in frustration, completely baffled at how his sister thinks all of this is okay. Back with Bill, who's fuming over their ability to leave the town, the demon ponders who would know what the force field is and how to break it. He looks at Ford intently, knowing full well he'll have to unpetrify him from his gilded state to give him the information he wants. And that's when one of his minions busts in and reports that Gideon let Dipper and the rest into the bubble. Bill orders his crew to retrieve Gideon, but he isn't concerned about the bubble. It's the most diabolical of his creations, with temptations that are just impossible to resist. And outside of Mabel's tower, Dipper stews over what he's supposed to do about his sister. Maybe she's right. Maybe people can be happier here compared to out there. I mean, have you seen it out there? And as he stares down at his reflection in the river, Wendy comes up and says, destroying the school got old pretty quickly. She says Dipper was probably right about the bubble and starts laying on the compliments. She lays them on pretty thick, actually, which is definitely wrong. She says in the bubble, maybe Dipper could grow himself up and they could actually be together. And obviously for young Dipper, who has been head over heels in love with Wendy for as long as we have seen, it's tempting, but he knows the truth. These things he wants to hear, but Wendy would never say them. The moment he realizes this, Wendy turns into a mass of writhing bugs and scatter everywhere. The trees and stuffed animals turn to face him and say he's being watched. There are eyes everywhere. And thoroughly freaked out, Dipper declares that they have to go back to the real world. Big mistake. He's not broken this world's #1 rule. Never mention reality. As a consequence, Dipper is put on trial in front of a jury of Mabels, which seems super fair, you know? And if Dipper can't win this trial of fantasy versus reality, he'll be banished from the realm forever and replaced with Dippy Fresh. Acting as the prosecution, Xyler and Kraz present Mabel's scrapbook full of all the horrible things that have happened in the real world, such as Mabel getting gum stuck in her hair after preparing for the perfect picture day, and Dipper getting no Valentine's cards at school and getting laughed at by the whole class. This is absolute proof that reality is awful with nothing worth returning to. However, Dipper takes his stand. He shows Mabel the same moments, but continues on to the aftermath. After the photo day incident, Dipper shaves his own hair, so they're both embarrassed. For Valentine's Day, Mabel makes Dipper a huge card made of what she got in order to cheer him up. And at the end of the day, the two of them have always been there for one another, so that the harshness of reality can be bearable. And then Dipper recognizes that spending his teens in a basement with Ford is just as much of a fantasy as Mabel's world, and the two come to an agreement. No matter what, life or death, they're gonna stick together through anything. Sealed with a sincere sibling hug, Mabel's bubble is no longer in her control. The creatures of the land evolve into horrific nightmare creatures, and the whole crew makes a break for it, breaking out of the bubble once and for all. Finally freed, Mabel says that Dipper can take Ford's apprenticeship if he really wants, but Dipper declines. He'd never miss out on his sister's awkward teen years. I mean, that's ammunition for Deck. The four of them trek to the mystery shack to find their grunkle Stan, heading a mix of town folk and forest creatures. And what are they all planning in there? Well, it's a mystery. That's what we're gonna find out right now. Stan, Old Man McGucket, and a smattering of townsfolk are hiding out in the shack. It's not great. Most of them are injured, food is running low, and morale is tanking. Stan is doing his best to lead everyone as chief. And if leading means hiding out as long as humanly possible, the shack is the safest place to be since Ford set up that anti-Bill defense with the unicorn hair Mabel got. The weirdness can't penetrate at all. Dipper tells Stan that Ford is in trouble and that every minute they spend hiding is basically pushing Ford closer and closer to his death, but for some reason, Stan just doesn't care. I mean, he does care, but he figures that Ford has gotten himself in this mess, so he'll have to get himself out of it. The man isn't in any hurry to leave the safety of the cabin. However, he makes the mistake of accidentally turning on the news, where everyone sees their loved ones petrified and making up Bill's throne. With this new motivation, Dipper and Mabel are able to rally the people to fight back against Bill, much to Stan's dismay. And back at the pyramid, Ford is back in the land of the living, though he's being kept on a very short leash by Bill, like literally. I mean, look at this poor guy. Bill brings him up to speed on how he and his demons can't escape Gravity Falls, and Ford thinks it's due to Gravity Falls' natural law of weirdness magnetism, a force so strong it prevents the weirdness from escaping the falls. He does, however, have an answer for how to escape its pull, but he would never tell Bill. The isosceles of insanity offers everything to him: power, immortality, you name it. But Ford still shuts Bill down. He has no other choice but to enter Ford's mind and search for the answer. But in order to do so, Ford will have to shake Bill's hand to let him in. So as an alternative, Bill decides he'll probably just torture the information out of him. How fun.
All right, I've made some thingamaticulous robomajigs in my day, but this is the first one that won't be used for evil.
Everyone at the shack bands together to build it, except for Stan, who hates that his shack is the base of the newly formed resistance and that everyone is stupidly risking their lives. So I guess you could say he has some resistance to the resistance, sorry. Anyway, the crew spends hours of hard labor getting this machine ready, but Stan spends the time sulking. Dipper confronts him about it, and his reasons make some sense. After all, he spent decades working to save his brother, and he never even got a thank you for it. He isn't exactly itching to put his life on the line just to get that treatment a second time. But these problems are bigger than the two brothers right now. Dipper heads back to the crew, disappointed in his grunkle Stan. And the next day, it's finally complete. A giant shack mech, chock full of weapons, ready to take Bill down. From within the cabin, everyone heads towards Bill's pyramid, and it makes one hell of an entrance. Ford's painful torture is interrupted by a giant T-Rex arm breaking through the walls of the fortress. Seuss spearheads the attack and tells Bull and his crew that if he does not hand Ford over and stop all of this, the Shackatron is gonna unleash hell. So of course, Bill unleashes hell on them. He sends his henchmen to attack, and in an all-out brawl breaks out. They are completely outnumbered, but McGucket's mystery mech and those fighting outside of it hold their own to the sound of our beloved theme song remixed into an epic battle track. Ford sees the twins' hard work pay off and compliments them for taking the fight to the evil one-eyed triangle, and that's when Bill realizes it. The vice he needs to break Ford's will. The twins clearly care about him, and he cares about them in turn. Dipper and Mabel are the key to getting Ford to talk. He re-petrifies Ford with his Midas touch and stands to fight the shack himself. He brings a giant fist down onto the mech, but it's no use. The shield holds strong and protects against his fury, even when he brings out many arms to barrage the machine. While he's focused on the attack, they use the T-Rex head to rip Bill's eye out, a part of him that takes longer to regenerate. And while he tends to his wound, the guys are able to send off their rescue team to go and save Ford. Stan, Dipper, Mabel, Wendy, McGucket, Seuss, Sheriff Blubbs, and Pacifica are all shot out of the mystery mech and into the pyramid, where they find the throne of human agony. Ford and Gideon doing a cute little dance, the worst form of torture. The crew destroys the throne, unpetrifying everyone and reuniting the rescue team with their loved ones, including Ford being back with the kids and making up with McGucket. This is where he tells them about what he tried telling Dipper back at the start, the Zodiac. The wheel is a prophecy that he saw on a cave many years ago, and each symbol in the Zodiac represents a person present. If those represented can form a circle and connect, they can vanquish Bill and reverse its weirdness. They look around to figure out who goes where, including Robbie and Gideon. Who would have thought? The only person left to join to finish the ritual is Stan, but he's still unconvinced about the plan's efficacy, and more than anything, still bitter about Ford's lack of gratitude for Stan's work saving him. I know, it's an emotional thing, but you know, time and place, man. Stan says he'll join hands, but only if Ford finally thanks him for saving his life. And Ford does indeed thank him, but he corrects Stan's poor grammar in the same breath, leading to a fight to break out between the two and breaking the circle. And now they've run out of time. Bill has defeated the shack and is ready to take care of the Pines once and for all. Thank you, sibling bickering. Now, you'd think Bill would be angry or something about this, but no. If anything, he's happy that the Resistance has stupidly brought all of his threats to one place so he can deal with them. Altogether, he breaks what's left of the Zodiac chain, traps Stan and Ford, and with a snap of his fingers, he turns everyone else into tormented tapestry. Well, everyone but Dipper and Mabel, who he locks away, using them to once again emotionally blackmail Ford for the answer on how to break free of the shield. But the twins keep fighting back, even from within the cage.
Ow! Not again! Why? Every time! Nice shot, Pumpkin! I just regenerated that eye!
And Dipper uses their size-altering flashlight to size up the cage and escape. Completely enraged now, Bill recaptures Stan and Ford and transforms into a multi-armed pyramid of pure malice in order to chase after the twins. While Dipper and Mabel are chased through the labyrinth that is the pyramid, Stan expresses regret that he couldn't set aside his pride and just shake his damn brother's hand. Ford eases him, saying that he's the one who dealt with Bill in the first place and didn't see his deception for what it was. The two wonder whatever happened between them, that they went from being like the kids to the distant brother they are today. Finally, Ford decides to play his final card, to let Bill into his mind in order to bargain for the kids' lives. If it weren't for the plate in his head, they could trap Bill in Ford's mind and erase him with the memory gun. But that can't be changed now. Stan doesn't have a plate in his mind, but Ford clarifies that Bill will only go into a mind for something he wants, and Stan doesn't have that information. Bill manages to capture the twins, and he returns to make Ford talk with the threat of their demise. And before Bill can kill one of the kids, Ford announces that he's ready to give in and let Bill enter his mind to find the equation. He stretches out his hand and shakes with Bill, giving him the entrance he needs. Ford's mind is a pure white void with a weirdly placed single wooden door. Bill compliments the orderliness of it all, but when he opens the door, he's met with Stan playing paddleball inside the mystery shack. Pretty weird for the mindscape of a genius, right? Well, it turns out, while Bill chased the twins, Stan and Ford played the old switcheroo with the all-powerful pyramid. They swapped clothes so Bill would enter Stan's mind, leaving Ford outside to wipe Bill using the memory gun. Ford points the gun, takes aim, and blue fire engulfs the memory room. Bill realizes that he's in trouble. He asks Stan if he realizes what he's doing to his own mind, but he simply replies, he wasn't using the space for much anyways. Bill begins to glitch and shift into numerous triangular forms, but none of them can stick. He's completely ripped from existence with a single powerful punch from Stanley Pine. Now that is what I call a way to go out. As he's slowly overtaken by the blue flames, destroying his mind, Stan looks down at a picture frame of him and the kids. In the end, he was finally good for something. Back in reality, where all the weirdness has been sucked up and the town repaired, Stan's memory is gone. Everyone else is okay, but Stan is confused. He doesn't recognize the kids, his brother, or even himself. Ford crouches down to where Stan kneels and gives him a hug, calling him their hero. They escort Stan back to the shack and let him sit down, hoping the place will maybe bring back memories, but nothing returns. Mabel sits down with him and tells him of all the magical and chaotic stories that he's been involved in, hoping that something will pull Grunkle Stan back from the depths of his mind. The family flips through pages that show the events of the series, but all Stan can do is shrug and apologize. He just doesn't recognize it. That's when Waddles pushes up through the scrapbook to sit on Stan's lap and licks his face, and Stan tells Waddles to quit it by name. The kids quickly have Stan sit back down so they can keep reading the scrapbook, and Stan starts remembering more and more until he's finally back. The con man we all know and love. Now that Weirdmageddon is over, the town moves on and is ready to coexist with the Gravity Falls natural weirdness. The Northwests have to sell their mansion to preserve their fortune. McGucket makes millions selling his patents to the government. Hey, the spiffy mansion is for sale. The local hero, Stanley Pines, has regained his memory. The twins celebrate their 13th birthday with their family, not just their grunkles, but their Mystery Shack family and everyone they've befriended in town. Stomping her foot onto the memory gun and destroying it once and for all, Mabel declares she'll never forget the people there. And as the kids open their presents, Ford pulls Stan aside. He's detected new anomalies near the Arctic Ocean, but he thinks he's too old to investigate alone. And he asks Stan for another chance at rekindling their brotherhood and friendship. But what to do about the Mystery Shack? Stan announces that he's ready to shut it down, but Seuss refuses the course of action. The shack is too important to the town, and Seuss's passion shows Stan that there's still someone around who can properly run the shack, and Seuss is dubbed the new Mr. Mystery. Let's go, dude. Good for him. He freaking deserves it. Dipper and Mabel's room is all packed up and the kids are ready to head home to California. They say their respective goodbyes to their friends, and Wendy hands Dipper her hat to remember her by and a letter telling him to open it the next time he misses the town. With Stan's help getting Waddles on the bus, the two board the head off into the unknown that is the future. But Dipper can't wait. He misses the town already. He opens Wendy's letter, and it's the signature of everyone in town with one single message: see you next summer. So the kids move on to whatever awaits them next, but know they'll always have a place to come back to, and their uncles reforge their bonds in the seas of the unknown. And that is the incredible story of Gravity Falls. I actually got really emotional as I went through this, especially the part about Stan losing his memory and forgetting the kids. I don't know if it came across through my voice, but this is such a special story, and they did such an incredible job. Alex Hirsch and his team did such a fantastic job, especially knowing what they dealt with behind the scenes with Disney, but that is something for a whole other video. So I hope you enjoyed this. If you want more full story breakdowns like this, let me know in the comments what's the next show we should do this with, and I'll hopefully see you in the next video. Maybe this one, because YouTube thinks you'll like it. Click it. Do it. I dare you.